Welcome to the ProBlack Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions. Your host tonight is the author of the ProBlack Compendium and Zuberi and the Maroons of Ma'at, the Pan-African Nationalist, Oni. Oni, what are we discussing tonight?
Peace, family. Peace, family. You're tuning into, what? Is that Oni? Okay. You're tuning into the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. And today we're going to do the AMA. This is AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. But of course, this one's a twist. Is of course, Ask Me Anything about Pan-African Nationalism, right? As I am going to go by the title of Pan-African Nationalist Strategist for today, right? Before we begin, though, I do want to remind you that I'm part of a podcasting network, and we just had a show yesterday, so make sure you guys check it out. We were on Shoot the Breeze, all four of us. Got pretty heated and intense, but it is what it is. Let's go.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio.
All right, family. So we're back into it. So we're going to jump right into it, right? Question one. This is actually going to be an important question. This is actually why I don't be using, what they call the government, because I'm about to talk to you guys about my family. All right. So how do you guarantee equity in a cash economy when 10 people with $10,000 at the start of the year won't all have the same amount at the end, right? And I'm going to go into something that, like I'm saying, I'm going to be a little personal. I'm going to be a little, like don't share this with my family, right? Right? Don't share this with my family. But what I'm going to say is this. So when my mother passed away, right, she had 4 sons, right? And she had life insurance. So she gave the 4 of us, some money. Now, obviously, she gave us more than 10 grand, but I want to just pretend like she only gave us 10 grand, right? Now, obviously, she gave us more than 10 grand because I'll tell you this. One of my brothers went and bought himself a car. Okay, so she gave enough, it was enough for, and he bought the car, and this is what I want you to understand. He bought the car before he even got the money. He was like, wait, money coming? All right, I want a new car, right? My other brother, he's a coon. That's why I said don't share this with my family, because they're going to be like, wait, But he a coon, so he done messed up he done married the wrong lady, okay? And he was like, I'm going to set this money aside, or maybe I'm going to put this money down to purchase a house, right? To purchase a house. I don't think he bought the house per se. I don't think he, whatever, but he's, she's pressuring him to get some money so that he can get her a house. And the thing you want to understand about with regard to this coon situation is that, whereas a house is a good investment, it's not a good investment if you're not married to the right people. Because if you paying for it, your bloodline's going to lose it. Like you have everything to lose, and she got everything to gain. You understand? So that's already, waste of damn money. But let's go on. So me, I'm a little bit more comfortable, right? And so I said, look, you know what? I'm going to put some of this stuff in this crypto. Crypto did kind of blow up, all right? So I'm not saying that I got all the winnings, right? But I'm saying that, I put it in crypto and some of it came out, right? And just to clarify, everybody kind of splurged, right? Everybody kind of splurged, but like I said, the coon, he was like, oh, I got to drink a lot after, our mother passed. Because, our mother was a really nice lady, So it's not like, you just, okay, she passed. All right, let's go. Right? It's kind of like you have to figure out how to deal with it. Now, I'll tell you what happened with my 4th brother, right? This dude, and look, it's a little bit of an exaggeration. right? But this dude got cocaine. You know what I'm saying? like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just got cocaine, just did hard drugs or something. Put his money in that. So you're talking about 10 grand, right? I say, one of my brothers says 10 grand, he gets a car. Now, of course, like I said, it's obviously more than 10 grand because ain't nobody getting a car for no 10 grand. But still, 10 grand to get a car. Another person, 10 grand, he invest in a house. Real estate. Real estate's an important investment, you know? Like we said, Harsh Reality, D-Web, he would tell you, real estate is the real estate. You know, everything else is, you know, whatever, right? Me, I'm like, hey, crypto, right? You know, virtual estate, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? I'm like, you know, I'm gambling, pretty much. Honestly. Right? And then my other brother, hard drugs. So why do I tell you this story? Why do I tell you this terrible story, this personal story that obviously would get me in trouble if my family, or when my family sees it, right? It's because if we're talking about equity, equality among people, right? Obviously, monetary disbursements is not going to do it because everybody, when they have their money, takes a risk with that money. You use your money to take risk. You know, you could buy a house and then that house burns down. Or you could buy a house and then you die and you leave all your wealth to another person. Or you could buy a house and you could host a good party and somebody, you know, like you host a bunch of things from your house, right? Anything could happen. And, you know, or you could just say, hey, look, I lost all my money. I have no more disposable income. Like the bro who said I'm going to get a car. No disposable income after that, right? But, and his car depreciates. The house could appreciate, right? Crypto, I go do the crypto, not all of it in crypto, obviously, but, you know, I go do some crypto. That could appreciate, that could depreciate. You understand? Drugs, that's just, you know, that's just whatever, but think of it this way. He could be doing the cocaine, doing heroin or whatever, I don't know, right? He could be doing whatever it is. He's doing it right next to the right person, you know, doing it next to the celebrity, and he might get a come up from that. I don't know. The point is that, just to clarify to people, right? You cannot guarantee equality in a cash economy, right? You can't, because no two people are going to have the same investment, the same effect, the same cost, the same so on and so forth. All of us may spend it off. Some of us may save it. Like I put some of it in the savings, and that like gives like almost nothing, right? Everybody is going to have a different result. So, you know, this whole, you know, and we're going to talk about redistribution later, but it's really also important to realize that there's a thing about character that we also have. Because I think most people are going to say, wait a moment, you say cocaine, right? You know? And I'm not saying that he did the cocaine. I'm just saying, you know, that's what it is. So that's for that question. And I'm kind of going to try to rush through this because there's quite a few questions. And not just that, but like I also gave that question for myself. And some other people gave other questions, like Kofi gave question 3. So let's go to question 2, though. How do you assign resources in a cashless economy when resources are necessary for development, yet resourcefulness isn't equally endowed? So this kind of goes back to the older theme. And you kind of see that I kind of like I like this question, personally, obviously, right? What is a cashless economy, right? One of the things that we tend to do is we tend to talk about, you know, bartering systems, like older economic models that we used to have like cashless economies, or we used to have cowrie shells, but really, you know, you didn't really need cowrie shells because you had land. Now, here's the trouble. A lot of African people today are landless. Like, if you're in a city, you're virtually landless. You know, when you were in a barter economy, right, you could pull things out of the ground because you had a ground under you. You had a productive ground. But again, we're also talking about resources. Resources are like trees. Resources are like minerals. Resources are like metals. Those are not things that you pull out of the ground per se, or you don't pull out of your personal land per se, but those are things that you would want a community to own, or an individual who knows how to use it and manipulate it to own. You do not want everybody to own these trees, because somebody could say, you know what? Like if you say, hey, look, nobody owns it. Because here's the reality. The reality of the world is this. You're on a planet. You're just an animal on a planet. That's all you are, right? That's all you are, right? That's all you are. All right. Good morning. Alma says I have a nice shirt on. Anyway, so that's all you are. You're just an animal on a planet, right? You don't own the earth. You don't own the trees around you. You don't own the metal around you. None of that's real, right? From the, Judeo-Christian religion, you might have this concept of actually the earth was created for us. That's not true. The earth has been here for 4 billion years or something, or maybe a little less, I think. I'm not too sure, but it's been here for quite a few years without any humans. You do not actually own the earth, right? You just take possession of the earth, and you do that at the allowance of other people, because people happen to be not only the group that you can communicate with, but for all intents and purposes, right now at this point of human development, we're, if not the strongest, one of the strongest entities on this earth, on this planet. Okay, so you don't own the trees. Nobody owns the trees. Even when you talk about, hey, Africa, Africans, these are our resources. They're not really your resources. You understand? What happens is that humans develop economies, develop economic systems so that they can use these things, and they develop political systems so they can coordinate with each other as they use it. Okay? That's what happens, right? And we develop cultures to justify these political systems, but the reality is that you're on this planet and you can use this stuff, right? You could use the stuff. So when we go back to this cashless economy question, right? It's to say this, that if somebody wants to use these trees for something productive, they want to cut down trees for something productive, then the political structure around them will facilitate that, right? If somebody wants to eat the lettuce that's growing out of the floor near your home, right? The political structure in place has a rule for that. Can I just go into your yard or can I just go into a yard and then take the food there and put it into my yard? Well, technically, yes. But because we form political structures, it depends on what the political structure says. And if they say, no, I don't actually want that, I want to be able to possess things on my own, that's where human development becomes complicated, and that's where cash as a system becomes something that's necessary, right? If not cash, then I would say digitized allowances. But the reality is that, particularly as human beings are today, like many of us are landless, right? And the question of possession and how do you possess something that's been here, or something that's on this planet, how do you possess things? That's called a mutual agreement. And the thing is this, that's like a legal arrangement, right? And the thing is this, that legalism or legality comes between a people who share a nation, share a national group, right? So it really boils back to, what is the nation that you have, and how are you impacting the nation and its legal structure for that sort of reassignment of resources, the reassignment of the land, so that we can be a resourceful and productive people. Because again, you do not have to be productive just because you have resources. You could easily say, hey, look, like there's a forest. Everybody could do something different with the forest. And like you go back to the $10,000, I think to do with $10,000, you could also buy a food truck, start a business. And that could work, or that could sink. You understand? There's so many things that you could do with this $10,000, and it's going to disappear, or it's going to multiply, but it's always going to vary, right? The reality is this, that you could have a forest. One person could have a forest and say, you know what, I just want to make a big fire, right? Another person could have a forest and say, you know what, I want to make a bunch of boats, right? Another person could have a forest and say, I want to make a bunch of canoes. You know what I mean? Another person could have a forest and be like, I want to smoke it or something. I don't know. I want medicinal property. I want the medicinal properties from this forest. Whatever it is, or I want to have an animal reserve. Everybody could do something different. And so the question becomes, who is going to have the say on what to do? And that is where you start to build nations. That is where you build communities. That's where you build power so that you can defend your people's decision on what to do with the resources in proximity of you. And the reality is this, or not even in proximity, the resources that you desire. Because what happened was this: African people had resources right next to them. They had resources right next to them. And Wazungu took a boat, went over and said, I want those resources. You know, African people had gold mines, for instance. You have the Mansa Musa story. White people looked at their maps and they saw a black man with a piece of gold in his hand. They said, does this black man have a gun? They said, no, this black man does not have a gun. They said, okay, well, I want that gold. And so now the humans over in, I believe Shanghai, I don't remember the name of the empire, but the humans over there were like, hey, you know what, we're going to defend this gold. And the white boys over in England and France and Germany and whatever, not Germany, but, you know, Switzerland and Portugal and Sweden or the other one, Spain. Something start with S, right? Those Europeans said, look, if you can't defend it, it's not yours. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately everything comes down to if you can't defend it, it's not yours. Like the food in my fridge. The food in my fridge is it's only my food because I exist in a legal system that says you cannot take that food, otherwise the state will come after you. But as soon as the state says, you know what, I'm not going to come after you if like you defend yourself. If I do not defend the food in my fridge, it's whoever's eating it. I could say, oh, that's my food. It don't matter. You have to understand that one of the main goals of every African person should be existing within their own nation where they impact the economic, political, cultural, ethical, legal structure at hand. And if you're not impacting the legal structure, the economical, the political, the cultural, if you're not impacting that structure, right? Well, hopefully the people who are have some sort of affection for you. Because otherwise you are in some damn trouble. But anyway, that was like the intro. As Learning Curve says, everybody hit those like buttons. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's enjoying the energy. I'm loving it, right? You know, whatever commercial that is. So this is actually Kofi. So Kofi's in the audience. So peace, Kofi. Appreciate you for setting this one. So he says, only one from me is how to identify or create genuine African-centered work. Like even with books by authors like Bobby Wright with the menticide concept he borrowed from a white man. Do you think it's good to Africanize concepts or should you start from scratch, right? So this was actually pretty interesting. This is a brother named Chris Marshall who that's his handle at Super Chris Marsh. After I read this, I saw he posted this, which is kind of like ironic considering what Kofi just pointed out, which he says the most serious error a black scientist can make is to utilize European definitions and analysis in attempting to understand and explain black phenomenon. There is no denying the fact that they who have the power to define rule. So again, you know, I think that kind of, it doesn't really answer it. It's kind of like, why in the world would this man take this white boy's menticide idea? Because, you know, like Kofi did provide proof that he did, right? And then say, well, we shouldn't do that. But all the same, when we talk about starting ideas from scratch, we also have to realize that we, like Anglophone Africans, right? It's going to be pretty damn hard for us to start something from scratch because we have already been started on. We've already been corrupted and perverted by this white boy. We've already been westernized. The fact that you could even understand me, you've already had, actually, just speaking English is not even the only problem. Like, you could speak English and so on and so forth. But for me, for instance, me personally, growing up, going to the public school system, you know, going to the fool university. I don't have a word for that one, right? But going to all of that, going through all of that, it gets into you. You are what you eat. You are what you eat. And even mentally, even intellectually, everything that you put into your body makes up everything that's in your body. Right? Everything that you put, like, because you were at one point just a fetus. And then you developed off of your mother's I guess, placenta. Her placenta provided you with the nutrients and all the, you know, whatever. And then you started to eat food on your own, right? And that food makes up the development that you've had since you were a fetus, since you were the size of my hand, right? Since you could have fit into your mother, now you're bigger than her, right? And yet you were composed from everything that you ate. That all becomes a part of you. Sure, you get rid of it. Sure, you do. But the thing with the brain is that you don't get rid of the stuff. I can still tell you the Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America. I can still tell you that one. You know? So to what extent I personally can start something from scratch, I'll have to admit, it's probably very unlikely. But what you can do is you can build off of, instead of Africanizing a European continent or building something from scratch, right? Because you're always going to have to kind of Africanize some sort of concept on yourself. You could work from a template of what they were doing in Africa before the corruption, before the perversion. You work from that, and of course, you're still going to bring in your own baggage, right? But eventually, and hopefully, you can, from generation to generation, purify your lineage. You might never be pure. It's like with genetics. If you're a part of the diaspora and you were one of the unfortunate, which are many of us, who can shake a family tree and some mulatto falls out, right? If that's your circumstance, you may never be pure in your genetics. But if you procreate enough with the pure Africans that you can find, right, your genetics can be clean. So what I would say is that, yeah, I mean, you could try to start from scratch, but realistically speaking, you want to work on what the Africans are saying. But I even want to take it a step further, right? I want to take it a step forward because we're going to come into a new era. We're going to come into a new era. What this next book is going to be about, I'm going to tell you guys. I say it all the time. Almost every single podcast ends with me telling you Uncle John Senep, right? And, you know, you kind of just say, okay, this is cool, whatever he's saying, right? Uncle John Senep was something that African people used to say to each other, right? We used to say this, you know, we used to say Hotep, obviously, peace be upon you, all that kind of stuff. We also said Uncle John Senep. Uncle John Senep, you could sometimes say life, wealth, health, right? You could also say posterity, prosperity, vitality. Okay? So this next book, when we talk about self-help, and I realized this later because I was looking into different resources. And all the time when they talk about self-help, well, when African people talk about self-help, they're talking about, yeah, man, we're talking about building up your life. We're building up your wealth. We're talking about building up your health. Or they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we're talking about your posterity. We're talking about your prosperity. We're talking about your vitality. That's how you self-help. So what I'm going to say is this, that one of the things that we have to focus on, if we're really truly about pushing forward our agenda, is that we have to figure out how we can increase our posterity, increase our prosperity, and increase our vitality. That means, you know, how we could increase our life, our living, our procreation too, right? Because, you know, some people say the ankh, right, is the female uterus and the male penis or what have you, and that might not even be the case. It might be the two genitals, it might not be, but whatever it is, you say to yourself, well, that's one of the focuses, right? Also, another focus is your wealth. We have to start really seriously saying to ourselves, what can we do with wealth? Because I told you about my brother earlier. You know, some black people, a lot of black people will just waste their money. Okay, a lot of black people. You know, people today be like, hey, you shouldn't give black people reparations because they're just going to so on and so forth. You know, Dave Chappelle made a joke about that, so on and so forth. You had the debate between Malcolm X and James Farmer. And James Farmer is saying, this is in the 60s. He's like, whoa, don't give black folk money. And he is African Americans you get. He's like, no. If you give us money, what are we gonna do with it? Because a lot of people do not know what to do with their money. Some people would say, neither of my mother's 4 sons did something good with their money. Because technically, even though my money might have multiplied, I gambled it. I mean, of course, I put some of it in savings, I'm telling you, but like even that, I want to say this too. When I went to Africa, I was like, here you go. Right? I got it for free. No, not for free. I mean, it costs a big deal, but still, So I shouldn't say that. I apologize. But what I'm saying is that, and I'll clarify. My mother wanted me to go to Africa, so I was like, hey, I'm doing this for her. All right. But anyway, so what I'm saying though is that, yeah, we have to focus on Anku Ja Seneb. All right. We have to, and so even when we talk about Africanizing concepts, and only thing I want to say regarding Africanizing concepts or what have you is that we have to come back to the Book of Power, right? Where in the back I tell you, look, there's our way and their way. Wazungu is about exploitation, and we are about reciprocity, ma'at, right? We're about reciprocity. They're about isfet and exploitation. We're about reciprocity. So when I go into this next book about Anku Ja Seneb, I'm going to be talking about you increasing your posterity, your prosperity, and your vitality through reciprocity, through our way. But that's about the basis. That's the fundamental for making things Africanized. But otherwise, a lot of this stuff where you, like for instance, this menticide concept, where you just kind of like, oh, well, you know, black people are messed up and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about black people being messed up. Don't worry about my brother taking cocaine. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about these coons marrying. Don't worry about that stuff. Worry about increasing your Anku Ja Seneb. When you worry about that, that's the only concept that you have to really understand. And that's what we're gonna do moving forward. Moving forward, we're going to focus on our posterity, our prosperity, and our vitality. Moving forward, we're going to focus on our life, our wealth, and our health. And anybody else who's telling you everything else, you know, like don't get your life together, don't get your wealth together, don't get your health together. Everybody else telling you all that stuff and telling you, oh man, you know, these people are unhealthy, those people are unhealthy. I don't care. You know, the world can have unhealthy people. The world could have people without wealth. The world could have people without children. I don't care. You shouldn't care either. You know? The masses are going to be an embarrassment, a distraction. White folk don't care for their masses like that. You shouldn't care for your masses like that either. You should care, I'm not saying just for yourself, but you should develop yourself so that you can actually do things for your community. See, because when you are healthy and wealthy and you got you got your life as you want it to be, then you can actually be reciprocal and help other people out. Remember, when you're selfish, when Wazungu's selfish, he is exploiting other people. You're not being selfish to exploit other people. You're being selfish to help other people. Okay? Okay? And actually, I wanted to show you guys this. Hold on a second. Give me 2 seconds. Hopefully this is the right window. Hopefully this is the right window. Let me see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over the screen. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this right here is, I have this post. I put it in 2013. Proverbs used within the community. Showing a few community. Proverbs used within the community about the community, right? And we're going to scroll down. These are just a bunch of Kikongo Proverbs. I'm not even going to read the Kikongo part because, you know, a lot of people could read it much better than me, right? This is it. So we're going to go to the word eat, where essentially these are what the ancestors used. These are Proverbs from the Congolese people that they were passing down from time immemorial. Number 13, I'm not going to read this, but you could read it if you can. And it says, eat, drink, and then sleep, for you ignore how the village was built. Just watch and see. Don't be involved in fundamental social issues of cultural and systematic discrepancies. What the ancestors were saying was this, that there are some people who are affecting and impacting the community on the fundamental social issues of cultural and systematic discrepancies. There are some of our people who are doing these things. These are what we call the elites. Now you have the commoners who are saying, look here, I just want to eat, drink, and sleep. You know, a lot of black folk will tell you, I just want to eat, drink, sleep, have sex, and take drugs. And that's fine. Our ancestors did not say, get out of the village. Our ancestors did not say, you're terrible. Our ancestors just said, okay, you don't want to build? That's fine. Go over there, keep eating, keep drinking, keep sleeping, keep procreating. Nobody cares. Just watch as we, the builders, build. So they were like, we're going to build somewhere for you to eat. We're going to build somewhere for you to drink. We're going to build somewhere for you to sleep. We're going to build somewhere to protect you. And we don't have to worry you. So we're not going to give you the $10,000. You understand? Probably give you $2,000. And then with the $18,000 that we have now, we're going to build something so that you could actually have something, because all you really want to do is eat, drink, and sleep. You understand? And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Sorry, I changed the wrong window. That's perfectly fine. Let me go back to the Discord for a second. So that's that question. How you guys doing? So I think said, damn, we need to say this every day to ourselves. You cannot defend it. It's not yours. Yeah, it's not yours. Learning Curve said it's not yours. It's Nacho, you know? Nachos. Yeah, nachos. So, all right, question 4 comes from Wise Intellect. He says, consider the cost of a nuclear power plant is $5 billion to $10 billion. Okay? Question, if you became leader of an African nation today, how will your government finance industrialization? Would it be through predatory debt from the IMF World Bank? Would it be creative and or alternative sources of financing? If so, what would they be? And then would it be invest in cheaper alternative sources of nuclear clean power? If so, what would those be? So I don't know if Wiser Intellect is in the comment section, but hopefully he'll hear this. What I want to say about this is this, right? This is the cost to buy a nuclear power plant. You understand? This is the cost to buy the nuclear power plant from a Westerner. You know? This is the reason why the cost is this high is because the Westerners have this knowledge to themselves. You know, realistically speaking, nothing costs a thing. Nothing costs a thing, realistically speaking, right? Because when you talk about, you know, you have a plantation of people picking cotton, right? You could be like, hey, the cost for, you know, maintaining this plantation is $4 million. You can say that. You can say that. But realistically speaking, you could force a bunch of people to work on that plantation for nothing. So there's no such thing as a cost of a nuclear power plant unless you plan on buying it fair and square. Now, if you plan on learning the knowledge, and of course you plan on paying, obviously, but if you plan on learning the knowledge then and implementing it yourself, then you don't have to pay that fee. It's kind of like this. I'll give you an example. The example I really want to give is something along the lines of a heart surgeon, right? If somebody comes along to you, let's say you got money in the bank. Somebody comes along to you and says, hey, look, you're going to die if you do not have heart surgery. Okay, you're going to die if you do not have heart surgery, right? Now you say, okay, well, how much? Well, they say they're a heart surgeon, so they could do this surgery for you, right? Now you say, how much is it? They say, how much you got? You understand? And when you say, well, shoot, I got $500,000 in the bank, they say, okay, it's $250,000. That's the cost because they have a specialist knowledge. Now, take this another way. My son is a registered heart surgeon, right? Right, my son's a heart surgeon, right? And he had no problem saving his father's life, right? Or he had no problem attempting to save his father's life, right? You think he's going to charge me $250,000 too? Because the cost of the surgery, I mean, there's going to be some material involved. So it's not like he could just do it for free, like he could just roll out of bed and, you know, just use his hands or something. He might have to have the scalpel. He might have to have the lights. He might have to have the nurses on hand and so on and so forth. But it's not going to be the full $250,000. And that's if he even wants to charge me, right? But he's going to have to pay some people to help him. So it's not like he could do it for free anyway. But the point being that the cost of something really has to do with the scarcity of knowledge surrounding the production of something. You understand? It comes back to also the labor cost of doing something, right? So the question in regards to, hey, how would I get this thing? It also comes back to, well, how much money do I have? You know, how much money do I have, and what is the level of my technology? And so when it comes to us as African people, we are supposed to be, and then of course, what's in your hand? That's a famous phrase from this admittedly mulatto guy, but I was told that Adam Clayton Powell Jr. would say, black folk, look at what's in your hand, right? So here's the question. What is in your hand such that you want to build this nuclear power plant anyway, right? Are you lacking in energy needs, right? And do you have billions of dollars at your disposal to give to foreigners? Because you should also have you should also have a budget for what you're giving to foreigners, right? Is the power plant at this moment an immediate cost? And if not, then you could delay it to teach your people nuclear physics. Okay? You could delay that to teach your people nuclear physics. But realistically speaking, we have to go and we have to be very specific, very particular about what African nation we're even talking about. You know? One of the books that I reviewed or I read for you guys was Check on to Job's book. Right? Check on to Job's another misogynist or whatever, right? But Check on to Job's book where he was along the lines of studying Senegal in depth and what sort of energy opportunities were available to Senegal. Okay? He was asking what sort of energy opportunities are available to Senegal. So he's looking at how the rivers of Senegal, if you just use the stream current, you can generate energy. He's looking at the waterfalls, and he's saying, hey, you could generate currency. He's looking at the temperature differences between the surface of the ocean and the land above the ocean. And he says, look, if I put a generator over here with this temperature difference, I could create something to make energy. He's looking at the wind farms. He's looking at the solar energy available. The point being that you have many, many opportunities to take advantage of. You know, right now you have Ethiopia building a quote unquote power plant, as you could say, more in line with the dam, right? So it's building this. I think it's the Aswan Dam, right? It's building this dam to generate power. You could cut a deal. If you're a leader of Africa nation, you could say, Ethiopia, my brother, I will help you with your situation, right? I will help you against the American imperialists, but reciprocity. Right? But reciprocity. You got that nice power plant. I'll help you with Eritrea. I'll help you with Egypt. I'll help you with all them stuff. But send some batteries my way. Or send a channel my way. Right? That's another way to do it. Now, I would not tell black folk to do the predatory loans from IMF and World Bank. But again, you know, we have to be realistic. Now, we have to be realistic. When you are the leader, you're going to make the decisions. I'm not going to make decisions. If I'm not the leader, I'm not going to make decisions. If you're the leader, you're going to make decisions. Right? Would I ever advise somebody to go white folk? No, but it don't matter what I advise. I'm not sitting there. You know, I gave this example. I gave this question. So that's the question I showed you guys earlier. I gave this question on Twitter. I said, if Africa were a car, what seat are you in? Right? And so far, I mean, I don't usually try to spoil the vote, but, you know, this was late. And people are saying they're in the driver's seat, they're in the passenger seat, they're in the back seat, or they're in the trunk. Look, most black folk is in the trunk. I'll tell you this right now. Most black folk is in the trunk. Right? Unless y'all are leaders of Africa, I don't see how you in the driver's seat. But a lot of people not even in Africa, not even in the car. I'll be honest. Right? But everybody's saying, hey, follow up, what seat would you like to be in? And they're like, I want to be in the driver's seat or the passenger seat. So we're really going to talk about that. Right? But the point is, the people in the trunk, they being taken for a ride and don't even know where they going. And like I said, they eating, drinking, and sleeping. They taking for a ride. The people in the back seat, they can see where they going, but they not doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're not moving the car. They're not really, they quiet. They just sit in the back seat. People in the passenger seat could communicate with the driver and say, hey, you know what? You know, maybe you should take a left turn. Maybe you take a right turn. Right? But they're not the drivers. Now, the drivers are the leaders, and when you're the leader, right, you have a lot of responsibility on your hand, and I would say, no, I don't think you should go for predatory loan from the IMF World Bank, but look, every other people, like when it comes to what a bank is something that loans you money. If you can negotiate a good investment, if you could negotiate a good deal, a good plan, like, hey, you know what? We're going to give you so on and so forth, and you're going to get so on and so forth. If you could do that, then you just won over on them. It's not like you can't win over on nobody else. Because if you couldn't win over on anybody else, then nobody could win over on you. The fact that people are winning over on you tells you that you could win over other people. Because again, remember that we're all just humans. Or, well, we are humans, right? But I mean, let's just say, we're all just animals. Everything's an animal, right? So you could negotiate with another animal. right? As far as creative and alternative sources of financing, I want people to understand from the Book of Power. Let me see if I could. I don't want to jump to it right now, but in the Book of Power, we talk about the law of gain, right? Maybe I should actually put it out in the book. We talk about the law of gain. Oh, sorry, I'm still on this screen. My fault. In the Book of Power, we talk about the law of gain, right? And the law of gain. Let me see if I got my book. Hold on a second. Give me 2 seconds. So here's the Book of Power. Y'all, if y'all don't have this yet, I don't know what you're doing. I really don't know, like I don't know what you're doing. But we go to the glossary, because the glossary is going to have quite a bit. Now, I wouldn't advise you start off on the glossary, but if you're impatient about learning about Africa and African people and the way that we're going to move forward, then just jump into the glossary, right? But in the glossary, it says law of gain. That is buying in the cheapest market and selling in the dearest. I said J.A. Rogers articulated it in this way in opposition to Marcus Garvey's racial economics. So he's like, Marcus Garvey doing racial economics, that's not how it works. The way how economics works, the way how you make money is you buy where it's cheap and you sell where it's needed. Okay? Like I said, the heart surgery thing. You get a few scalpels and you get a few workers, then you could do heart surgery on some rich dude who's finna die. You save his life, he gives you a bunch of money. Right? That's it. Now you could do heart surgery on a mouse and you're not gonna get anything. Same procedure. You're not gonna get anything. Nothing. Like, there's no way the mouse is gonna get anything, right? But anyway, let's see. He was right about the law, but wrong. So I said, look, he was right about the law, but wrong about the application, right? All economics is group race economics, namely through their racial elites, right? So you're gonna have people who are going to be the elites of the community, not the people eating, fucking, and drinking, whatever. Or eating, fucking, sleeping. You're going to have the people who are saying, look, there's more to life. There's more to life, right? And if you want to be a part of that group, then you have to say, look, how can I trade? How can I exchange? How can I do reciprocity with another people so as to get some resources? That's how you will develop your economics. You will give and get. That's how we do it. Now, other people do exploitation. Like I said, you could also do that. You could build a nuclear power plant for free. You know what I'm saying? You just get the nuclear physicist and say, you work or I'm going to kill your whole family. We don't want to do that. We'll say, look, we're going to give you some money. We're going to give you some money. We're going to give you some training. Okay? We're going to give you, and what you're going to produce from that is that nuclear power plant. But let's keep going. The law of gain practiced by racial elites is how nations are able to provide for their racial commoners and their population at large. Right? The commoners do not generate the wealth. The elites, by way of markets, do. You have to win at the game of markets. When you win at the game of markets, right? When you win at the game of markets, that's where you win as a people, right? So that's how you will finance things. If you have a government that is saying to itself, or you have a group of elites and people focused on more to life who say, let's build something. When you have them focusing on building things, right? And we're going to talk about that for question 5. When you focus on that, that's where it comes in. And first, you say, if you invest in cheaper alternative sources of nuclear clean power, if so, what would those be? Obviously, you have the solar power. You could, as nations, as federations, or what have you, the Pan-African effort, we can have the Sahara turn into a solar farm, right? And have a lot of energy. You could have the Aswan Dam, right, up in Ethiopia, and really invest in that sort of production. You could have the streams like Check on the Joke was talking about. And of course, my favorite is the Katanga. I believe it's Katanga Dam. But the one in the Congo is, people have computed it. They said that one dam, if the Congo were up to par, that one dam could power all of Africa and Europe. Or one of the two. But the point is that it's if we just did that. All right, so we're going to go to the next question. Let me see if there's any comments. Anybody got comments? Kofi says, good answer to my question. Appreciate it. So let's go to the next one. Make sure you guys can see. All right. What do I have to open up? Discord. So he says, so this is Lero. And she didn't actually ask this for the AMA. which is Ask Me Anything. But, I decided to add it. I decided to add a lot of stuff. She says, she shows this tweet. It says, I'm not against black business at all, right? In fact, I totally support it in theory. Actually, let me see if I can post it onto the other thing. Give me 2 seconds. Because I don't know if this is the whole tweet, so I just want to make sure it's the whole tweet so that we can go forward in terms of that. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, so there's a little more to it. Yeah, all right, so let me switch the screen. Is it this one? Okay. So he says, let me just, it's a little hard. I'm not against black business at all. In fact, I totally support it in theory. But what we need are black businesses that are owned and operated by folks in our communities that are connected to and feed into, financially support large-scale social welfare organizations and programs. Similar to the function of the Black Panthers program, healthcare programs, housing, provide breakfast, lunch, dinner, political education programs, job training, and it can be funded by black business. If you are in a city, don't take my idea, bring me in on it, and let's get it to work, LOL. Right? So this is somebody named Rob Shakur. It's a Pan-Africanist scientific socialist and Nkrumah. All right, let me tell you this right now. I'll tell you this, guys. I'm gonna try to be real with you. This will get you killed. Okay? This will get you killed. If you have a death wish, go for that. That's nothing, right? So Lero says, "Would this be an example of ethical capitalism?" And I answered it in the Discord, but I want to clarify for you guys why I said no, right? Capitalism is when we read conscientism together, right? In conscientism, Nkrumah said something that I disagreed with, but is accurate for the Eurasian. Nkrumah said every nation is ruled by a militant sector. Okay? Every nation is ruled by its militant sector. All right? And there's wisdom there because, and I don't want to say white folk got wisdom. I don't want to say that. But there's this gentleman named Marx, right? And he says, look, I think it's him, but maybe somebody else before him, who said the state has a monopoly on violence, right? So to say, I said that Nkrumah, I didn't really agree with Nkrumah because there's a lot of nations that do not rule by their militant sector, but Wazungu's nations are, right? And Nkrumah said, and Marx will tell you, hey, the state is the monopoly on violence. The reason why I'm saying, hey, this is not it, because the bourgeoisie, we talk about capitalism, you have to talk about the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie are not the business owners. Those could be the petty bourgeoisie, right? A business owner is somebody who has you make wigs in your house. That's a petty bourgeoisie, right? The business owners. This is why you don't like Marx, but you could appreciate this part where he says no. The most powerful people in your community are the ones who own the means of production. Why? Because when you start manufacturing weapons, when you start to get into industrial weapons, it's the people who can make those who are going to win the wars, who are going to supply the police, who are going to supply the soldiers. And that's why they have so much pull and power in their communities. Black businesses, for all it's worth, if you're making wigs, you might be making money, but you cannot produce a car. Like the sister was telling me, oh, she makes waist beads or something. That's good, but you're not going to be producing a rifle. The people who are producing the rifle are the people who have the factories. So no, that's not an example of capitalism. That's just black folk trying to die again. We did an analysis of the Black Wall Street. What happened in Black Wall Street? We did an analysis of that. In Black Wall Street, I said to you very plainly that that essentially black folk had no strategic defense against white folk in Black Wall Street. Because if you are surrounded by your enemy, right, you don't even produce weapons on top of that, but you don't even have any sort of military infrastructure, as to say a gate, right, a fence, a watchtower, nothing. If you have none of that stuff, when you meet for a gunfight between the people who produce your guns and the people who and you're just on a playing field, right, and they outnumber you, you are going to die. If you have a bunch of businesses where you guys produce hair, or you guys do nails, and you guys do, you guys make some good Southern fried chicken, that's all great. That's wonderful. It's a nice business area, and you also do little, community events, whatever. Sure, but do you have any tanks? Or you gonna buy tanks from your enemy? You understand? The reason why if the bourgeoisie say, hey, you know what, I don't like you anymore. I don't like you anymore, Tennessee. Or let's say for instance, you got two states fighting, right? Because I don't want to bring up the nations. Let's say you got two states fighting. No, let's just do it. You got World War II, and you had Ford. I think it was Ford who was like, yeah, we're putting money and we're building stuff for Germany to win the freaking war. I don't know if that was the case, actually. I didn't even look into it. But the point being that's a decision that only the bourgeoisie can make. If you are a hair supplier, you might be able to make some money and send some money somewhere, sure. But when it comes to war, and that's actually the one that I wanted to show you guys. I just remembered. That's actually the one I wanted to show you. So we're going to jump into back onto this website. And this is going to be Machiavelli. So Machiavelli is when he wrote this book, it's called The Art of War, right? He wrote a book called The Art of War, just like Sun Tzu, right? But his was more like, just a bunch of nonsense. It wasn't even that good. But what he did in that book was he listed some things that he's heard that was passed down wisdom or passed down knowledge. I would think, some of that knowledge came from Africa, right? So that's why I reprint it in the ProBlack Compendium. No, I don't even do that. But I did put some of them in the ProBlack Compendium, right? And so these are the rules of warfare, and one of them is really, really important. I want you to see this one. Oh, here. Men, steel, money, and bread are the sinews of war, right? Sinew, let's just say it's like the four things in war. Men, steel, money, and bread. But he's like, but of these four, the first two are more necessary. For men and steel find money and bread, but money and bread do not find men and steel. I'll read that again. Men, steel, money, and bread are the sinews of war. But of these four, the first two are more necessary. For men and steel find money and bread, but money and bread do not find men and steel. Now, of course, Machiavelli's writing this in I don't know what year it is. Let me see if I put down the year before. But he's writing this. Is it the 15th century? Yeah, so the 15th century Italy. There wasn't really. I mean, there might have been firearms there, but I'm not 100% sure whether they had firearms or not. But what he's saying is this. But like in today's day, he's saying, look, steel, that's the bourgeoisie. That's what the bourgeoisie have. The manufacturing, that's what the bourgeoisie are doing. The bourgeoisie have the labor class. If you just have the business where you have the money and you have a few labor or whatever, and you have the bread, that's all well and good. But when somebody else want to eat and they got the men and steel, then guess what? You ain't eating. And in fact, this is the next one. It says the unarmed rich man is the prize of the poor soldier. I don't think I need to say anything else about that one. So no, that's not even capitalism. I would say that's not even capitalism, let alone ethical capitalism. When I did talk about ethical capitalism, I did clarify that. So you guys should join the Discord. I did express to Libro that ethical capitalism is when the capitalists, the bourgeoisie, when they have that ma'at training, when they have that African way that Kofi was asking about before, when the bourgeoisie, when the people who own the men and steel are like, hey, let's expand Africa, let's build African people up. That's what we're talking about. When the people who are producing the weapons, when the people who are producing the drones, when the people who are doing all that, when they are on the side of African liberation, that's what I would say was ethical capitalism. But so Leroy's here. So peace to Leroy. She says, when I asked the question about ethical capitalism, is more so in regards to that latter part of the tweet. Should the bourgeoisie be connected to the social welfare plans and organizations? And what makes you say that you will get killed, though? Yeah, so I said they would get killed because they don't have men in steel. When you don't have men in steel, you're just the rich. I think yeah. So what the other guy said, which is the rich man, I guess. No, the rich unarmed man is the prize of the poor soldier. If you're doing this stuff in America, you might as well be unarmed, right? Because you're surrounded by people who are producing some of the world's best weapons, right? If you're doing this in America, you might as well be unarmed. You know, now I'm not saying that you should be unarmed. I'm just saying that, like, effectively, like, what do you really, like, where are you? Because I'm telling you, like, it really upset me. I did the video on Black Wall Street, like, what really happened, and it really upset me because the shootout that happened was on like a railroad track. That means you had nowhere to hide. It was just, a handful of defenders against a handful of invaders. Or like a lot of invaders. Like much more invaders. So you just had to, you just had nowhere to hide. Like you had to have been a really, really good shot to have won the day there. Because you were being overwhelmed. They had airplanes flying over you. And you had no defense against airplanes. There's nothing you could have done. Flames ask, are you going to do more of these Q&A sessions? Am I going to do more of these Q&A sessions? Yeah, sure. But if you want to ask questions now, you can. Lero has, what makes you think they'll get killed? Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. So, no, she asked also if they're connected to social welfare programs and organizations. Yeah, you can connect it to social welfare and so on and so forth. But realistically speaking, in regards to capitalism, you want the bourgeoisie to, you want to have African people who are in the industrial fields. Because industrialism is at this moment the most powerful group on the planet. Now, some people will tell you, no, it is the cyber, like the technological, the cybersecurity, the so on and so forth. Yeah, that's a good one too. You want to supplement that with your ability to industrialize, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about in this next book, about how you want to do your industry and you want to have your post-industry as well. But you can't just go post-industry without doing your industry. You can't learn to program a microwave or program a microwave to detect food or what have you and all that, all that stuff, but you can't build a microwave, right? You want to be able to do both. You could have the drone that's a killing, but you could have the program that the drone would use, but if you can't build a drone, then it doesn't matter. It's like you develop your body and then you develop your brain. That's another concept that I'm going to keep reiterating, right? Says Lero. Okay. She said, bro, this is off topic, but it's Lero, not Lero. You should have corrected me a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? I've been saying that forever. All right. So Flames, I said, yeah, sure. AM Sun says, one problem I see with us is the lack of scale. The wig maker, baker, maker of clothing, etc. only uses wealth to create more wigs, cake, waist beads, etc. Right? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You want to have the means of production. That's what the bourgeoisie is. The bourgeoisie are the people who own the physical means of production. There are other people who like technically you wouldn't even consider the baker and the wig maker. You would say that they're petty bourgeoisie. And what Marxism is about is like, realistically speaking, saying, you know what, the petty bourgeoisie are kind of inconsequential. Like, the people who are really consequential are the bourgeoisie, right? Learning Curve says our bourgeoisie only want to escape blackness. They are betrayers of the people. Yeah, so when we look at Africa, a lot of us are not bourgeoisie. Like, we are essentially like petty bourgeoisie, but we're just mimicking the colonizers, right? Noble War Prize says, where can I find your analysis on the Tulsa race massacre? So that's just one of the videos on my channel. I can probably look it up a little later. But AM Sun says, historically speaking, the industrialization of England, France, Germany, and Japan, and the U.S. were the spoils of capitalist exploitation, in one sense or another, fueling the birth of a mechanized industry. Exactly. So their way is going to be exploitative. So we have to find a way to do what we need to do, like create products and things through reciprocity, right? However that may be. And so that's why we as African people have to really focus on wealth generation right now, so that we can use that wealth to then make that wealth build and build and build. So that we might start off making cars or whatever, and not in a non-exploitative way, right? But eventually those cars can go on to bigger and finer things. But until then, like we can't, like we don't plan on doing exploitation, right? We don't. That's not our way. But at the same time, we do plan on being industrialized, because if we're not, we are going to be screwed over by people who are, because what happened in ancient Kemet, I tell you guys about this in the Book of Power, what happened in ancient Kemet was that the Assyrians came to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians were still using bronze weapons, and the Assyrians were using iron weapons, right? And when you have iron clash with bronze, iron wins. And not just that, the Assyrians had a 200,000 standing army, whereas we might not have had a standing army. I think they were the first ones to have a standing army. When you have a standing army, when you have any advantage, right? You gotta, like, we as African people have to say, no more advantage for them. All right, no more advantage for them. So yeah, that's one of the serious things that we're gonna do. But we're gonna keep moving forward. So this was another one. It says, consider this tweet and our stage of economic development. Is it better to redistribute wealth or concentrate it? Right? So I said, no, so this is a tweet. It says, you should give not because more is going to be given to you, but because you have more, and redistributing it to others is crucial to our collective survival. So again, this goes back to this whole idea of, can other people, realistically speaking, do anything with what you redistribute? Like, is redistributing wealth or concentrating it really the idea? And it goes back to that Congo proverb, which was, a lot of people are just going to eat, drink, sleep, fuck, And look, I want to explain this to you too. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And some people, like for instance myself, I don't mind eating, drinking, and sleeping a couple of, sometimes. Maybe sometimes it's a few hours. Maybe sometimes I have that feeling for a few days. Maybe sometimes I have that feeling for a few months. Some people have that feeling for a few years. And that's fine. But what our ancestors had said was, just don't be involved in the development. Don't be involved with the wealth, right? We're going to do it. We're going to build this nation up. And that's what you have to focus on too. Not so much saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to give to these other people. Because the thing is this, like I said, I have a brother. You could give him all the money in the world. What is he going to do with it? He's going to just buy some drugs or something. I'm not saying he's a druggie. I'm not saying all that kind of stuff. I'm saying, no, he also gave out some of his money. He gave his money to his friends and so on and so forth. It's not like he's not going to build anything though. So the question is, the reality is that you have to concentrate your wealth in the people who are building, because the people who are building are the ones who are going to secure your defense and secure your power. When the bourgeoisie get the money, right? This is why Wazungu is so strong, because the bourgeoisie get their money. The bourgeoisie get their money. You understand? So now he could build better tanks. Now he could build better rockets. And while you saying, hey, no. Oni's brother, you need some money too. And my brother's like, yeah, sure, I could use the drugs. Right? All right, I should stop that. I just stopped that because he's... Anyhow, he hears this. This is an exaggeration. This is not accurate, okay? I'm just giving you an example. It's not accurate. My brother's not like a druggie or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that you don't go about with this redistribution mindset. You go about with this mindset of increasing yours and your communities and your nation, whatever level you reach, increasing that on Uja Seneb. Uja being wealth. Okay? You concentrate on your wealth production, and then you become that much more an effective human being. Because I'll tell you this, when you do not have wealth, right, you can be subject to a lot worse. I heard people, like I said, I was in Ghana. I heard people who were like, they would do quite they would sell themselves for money. They would sell themselves for money. You understand? That's not something that you want for your people to do. Some people, I was reading a news story, they would sell children. Some people would sell children that's not even theirs. It's worse to sell your own child, but I don't know which one's worse. But yeah, it's worse to sell your own child. But some people would kidnap another child. Like children sleeping on the streets with their parents. And then their parents may just, close their eyes for a second and they wake up and their kid is gone. Some women said that some woman was apparently, every time she hear a kid cry, she thinks it's her kid, but her kid was kidnapped 5 years ago. And listen to this, some kids are being kidnapped to be, allegedly, right? Some kids are being kidnapped to be killed. Okay? This is not something that should be happening in Africa, but you have to say to yourself, can we make a difference? Not, oh yeah, well, let's give this lady. No. You build something so that she can sleep somewhere safe. Right? If you could build something, you don't say, oh, well, shit, well, I could build something. I have the ability to build something, so I'll give you, and I'll give you, and I'll give you, and now I can't build anything. But now you have something, what are you going to do with it? Well, I just, I really want to eat at this fancy restaurant, or I really want to go to the strip club. And it's like nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that, that's fine. But what I'm telling you, because there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, you could have those moods. You could have those moments where you're just like, hey, like I'm saying, I could be like, hey, you know what? I kind of, I want to get some. You know what I'm saying? I want to eat something nice today. Like I told y'all yesterday, I was like eating some mac and cheese and lobster, I think. It was a black-owned restaurant for like $26. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that every day. Some people will. Right? But everybody could splurge. Everybody could enjoy themselves. Part of life is enjoying yourself, but you have to have more. And when you want more, then consider yourself a part of a group of people that can really build something. And that's what we got to do. So Flames asked, do you consider Hispanic people to be black African? Kofi said no. I mean, it depends on which Hispanic you're talking about, but the name sounds like Spanish people. I mean, like, are you talking about people from Spain? Are you talking about the mixed race people? Like the hybrid, like the hybridized people? Are you talking about the people who are just purely African who happen to speak Spanish? So I don't really know. So he says, I don't either, but a lot of people follow the one drop rule and they say they are. So do you have to look black to be black? So Flame says, so you don't have to apply the one drop rule to anything. You could apply the predominantly African group, or you could apply just realistically speaking, focusing on ourselves. Just focus on yourself. Focus on finding you an African to build a life together with. Focus on you on finding a community to build your wealth together with, and focus on you and finding a home where you could focus on your health. Right? It's really Anku Ja Seneb. That's pretty much the whole thing. Like, don't worry about the next man. If you feel like somebody's not black, just don't even engage them, or engage them as you would any other animal. Like as you would anything. Just engage them like that. Like, hey, you have something I want, then maybe I will trade with you. If that's what it is, if that's what it takes. But otherwise, like I wouldn't even do the analysis. It's like not that important, right? So this is the next question. This is a video of Malcolm X. He says, I said, Malcolm breaks down police brutality, the criminal justice system, and American democracy. Then and now, American democracy is hypocrisy. Only we can put a stop to it. So the question is, should black Americans seek to end white American democracy as per Malcolm's insistence? So let me see if I could bring this video up. And of course, I asked this question because I just think that a lot of us, like, I'll be honest with you. A lot of us quote our elders and ancestors and but we have to really seriously listen to what they're saying, right?
It's the same way.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the video. And Malcolm, with the video already open? All right. That's interesting. All right.
They put their club upside your head and then turn around and accuse you of attacking them. Every case of police brutality against a Negro follows the same pattern. They attack you, bust you all upside your mouth, and then take you to court and charge you with assault. What kind of democracy is that? What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court, has nothing on his side other than what the white man chooses to give him? My brothers and sisters, we have to put a stop to this. And it will never be stopped until we stop it ourselves. They attack the victim. And then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. Yes, sir. This is American justice. Yes, sir. That's right. This is American democracy. Yes, and those of you who are familiar with it know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy.
So you guys heard that. The guy, Kamau Franklin, says Malcolm breaks down police brutality, the criminal injustice system, American democracy, then and now. American democracy is hypocrisy. Only we can put a stop to it. Now, I want you to understand this. I might have commented to this. Let me see if I did. Yeah. So I said, look, telling black Americans that they can put an end to white American democracy will mostly confuse us. You know, I appreciate Malcolm speaking. It's very forceful, but I can't imagine how many otherwise well-meaning black folks were misled by this rhetoric. We'd end an American democracy. The thing is this. So we go over to the question, should we, as quote-unquote African Americans, and, you know, that depends on how loose you use that definition, right? Should we, as Africans in America, seek to end white democracy as per Malcolm's insistence? Now, the reality is this. When Malcolm was asking, hey, how are we going to do this? When he was asking, what kind of democracy is this? You have to realize that Wazungu has the autonomy and authority and the legal arm here. This is Wazungu's nation. This is the white boy's nation, right? And when you realize that it's the white boy's nation, you have to realize this, that forget about morals and talk about legal. And legal is what the national group decides. Legal is what the national group decides. So if the national group says, we're going to kill you with impunity, that's what's legal. It might not be what's moral, but that's what's legal. And the world operates on what's legal, right? Now, look at this. You saying, hey, look, you know what? F you, America. I'm going to destroy you, so on and so forth. And America says, okay, well, then I'll just kill you and I'll keep moving. I'll keep doing what I was doing. And what did they do with Malcolm? What did they do with Khalid Muhammad? Right? What did they do when Marcus Garvey was talking stuff? Marcus Garvey wasn't even talking any violence. They said, all right, get out of my country. Get out of my country, and you can't even go to your own country. Right? You can't even go to Africa. You can only go to Jamaica. Right? This is what we have to understand, is that what you have to first concentrate on is, like I said, Uncle Ja Seneb Neb on your level, on your individual level, and then you want to focus on Uncle Ja Seneb Neb on a national level, on building up your collective wealth, your collective power, so that you can now have all the leverage on the planet. See, because England could say whatever. England could say, Marcus Garvey, you go down to Jamaica. And Marcus Garvey says, no, I'd rather go to Liberia. They say, I don't care. Liberia's closed for you. Liberia is closed for you because I have international leverage. I developed my posterity, my population. I developed my population, its intelligence, its wisdom, from dirt, mind you. I have these, I think I put it in the funny. Let me not just jump to funny like that though. But there are these quotes on YouTube, on Twitter, about Cicero and them, talking about how the British were like the dumbest people they ever met. The British couldn't even learn music. And Marcus Garvey will keep reminding you, the British were the slaves for how long? Right? They were regarded as the worst. But through industry, they were able to become the power that could stop Marcus Garvey, the biggest organizer of his time, one of the best speakers of his time. They were able to stop him because they developed their Uncle Ja Seneb. So you have to say to yourself, what can I do personally to develop an African country, an African nation, so that now when I want to stop police brutality in another country, or when I want to stop something going on in another country, I could do that. But if you're going to do it from just being an individual in that country, you're probably just going to get yourself killed. you're probably just going to get yourself killed. Because a lot of people do not play with power. You know? And if you want to play with power, you should have power when you're doing so. You know? You don't go up to the man with the rifle. You don't go up to the man with the rifle, right? And say, hey man, run your pockets. Right? You don't do that. You could try. But you don't do that. You have to be strategic. And this is where strategy comes into play. But, that wasn't a real question, so I'm just going to keep going. Socialist rhetoric, number 8. Socialist rhetoric has been effective both as a decolonial tool and a neocolonial tool, to where we can credit many revolutionaries in Africa with having been socialists, but also credit many neocolonial puppets with the same. Why is that? So socialism is this sort of unquote anti-imperial rhetoric, right? It's this rhetoric of capitalism is bad because the bourgeoisie are bad and so on and so forth, right? And the trouble and the reason why it's so effective as a decolonial, because a lot of the African leaders that did decolonize Africa were socialists. You can't deny that. But a lot of the leaders even today, who are the neocolonials of today, and I'm not going to, like I said, you need power to talk about power, so I'm not even going to tell you their names, right? But a lot of them do have a background with promoting socialism, even though they're working for the capitalists, right? Why? And it's because the socialists, while it does tell you, hey, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, right? I was actually explaining this on Twitter, right? Scientific socialism is a German socialism, right? It's a Hegelian dialectic. It comes from the Hegelian dialectic, which says thesis, antithesis, make a synthesis. Okay? Thesis, antithesis, make a synthesis. So capitalism becomes synthesized into a communism. Right? It doesn't try to destroy the old order. It tries to synthesize with the old order. Like the assumption of the Hegelian dialectic, which is why I say you should just dismiss it because it is unique to this German guy, right? The essentials of it is that nothing is really destroyed. Everything is just synthesized and developed and evolves into another stage. Slavery becomes feudalism, or feudalism becomes slavery, and there's evolve into capitalism, and so on and so forth. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, let's destroy the old system, right? The socialists are saying, let's use the old system to make a new system, and they're doing it so ineffectively because they still have not assumed the bourgeoisie in a realistic sense. Like we were talking about before with regards to the revolutionary matron, where she says, our bourgeoisie don't really produce anything. They just try to mimic white wazungu. When you are not producing anything, you're not really a bourgeoisie. But you see, the people who can develop, the manufacturing, that's where the difference comes in. When you are manufacturing, that's where the difference comes in. But we're going to actually talk about that later, so I'm just going to jump ahead. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's see if there's any other questions. She said, how will race dynamics change once Latinos are the majority in the United States? So I don't know if Latinos are going to be the majority, but they're the second biggest population right now. The reality is black folk in the United States are in a big piece of trouble because they are like a minority in a hostile nation. It's very hard to, and they don't have any manufacturing. They don't have any bourgeoisie. They don't have any capitalists, right? Kofi says Latinos are racist, so same old, right? Board Price says, I agree. I feel blacks are alone and things will get worse once Latinos are the majority. AM Sun says, the only way I see around this is the large-scale cultural and social unity consolidation between the black immigrant class and the American-born black people. Again, the trouble is this: we don't have any capital. The Latinos don't have any capital either. The white folks still produce all the guns. You're still being controlled. Like, you have to realize, look, the NYPD is the largest police force on the planet. There's only about 1 million of them, right? Oh, no, I don't even know if it's 1 million of them. I think it's, let me see. I think they tell you how many people they are. It's like maybe even 200,000, I think. But NYPD is the largest police force on the planet, even bigger than China, right? Well, as far as I remember, right? Or as far as the last time I looked it up. Let me see how many people there are. I think there's only... Hold on a second. I gotta look this up. It's kind of hard to... But it could be like something like 100,000 or 200,000, you know? Like it's a small number of people if you really consider it. So it's probably 55,000. Yeah, NYPD employs about 55,000 people, right? And this is the New York City Police Department. They're not even like they're not even like the whole state of New York. It's just the city of New York, right? Okay, so I'm in the wrong browser. So let's just show you guys this. This is the you know, I look, I use Wikipedia when I need to, you know? It ain't complicated, right? So the New York Police Department employs only 55,000 people. Only about 35,000 of them are uniformed officers. However, New York City has 8.8 million people. The biggest city in New York, the biggest city in the United States of America. It has 8.8 million people. So 8.8 million people are following the laws enforced by only 55,000 people. Why? Because these 55,000 people are organized. These 55,000 people, like right here, there's Harbor Patrol, Air Patrol, bomb squads, counterterrorism, criminal intelligence, those so on. They have weapons, they have this sort of stuff. Somebody's manufacturing weapons for them. Budget of $6 billion. Okay? And the 9 million people are being controlled by this little number of people. Not to say that America, you know, the U.S. government wouldn't try to help out if something really went rough down there. But the point being that this is all, like, you don't need to be the majority to control people. South Africa told you that. What you need to do is you need to be the baddest people there. That's what the gangs tell you. You know, the gangs, like you go to the, you know, a projects building, you know, there might be 2,000 people in the neighborhood. And it's like 20 people or 30 people are running the whole 2,000. Minus the cops. And even if you would say, hey, the cops there, maybe like 10 cops are assigned to that area. And they run in the whole gang operation. All the gangs. You don't need to be the majority. You need to be the most violent, the most strong, the most powerful. That's what you need to be. And the thing is this, that if you as Black Americans are not really focusing on getting your capital, and you might not get capital in America, because there are laws in place that say, yeah, you know, you're not going to have a factory. But let's say if you guys do not focus on that, it don't matter what group's in power, because you're not going to be able to fight it. Because you know how Black folk relate to the police. I don't need to tell you that. I saw this one brother walking by me, mean mugging me, or just walking like he was trouble. He saw a police officer walking out of the store and he held the door for him. Nobody cares if you're the majority or the minority. If you cannot stand up for yourself, if you cannot produce weapons for yourself, nobody cares how much you have. Your number's going down. You're going to die. And if you're not already dead, if you're not already living dead. So AM Sun says, silly media shenanigans are running interference on this though. I see, Noble says, I see Latino as a coalition race much similar to the white race, an umbrella unity that will oppress blacks. Flame says, with African Americans dealing with police brutality, mass incarceration, black on black crime, and high abortion rates combined with interracial marriage, do you think we will go extinct in the future? Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's why I tell people they're doomed. I say they're doomed. I say, but you know, people don't want me to say that. People don't want me to say that when you are a small group with no wealth, right? And with a brain drain going on, where you're all kind of stuck inside of, either you're stuck inside of the hood where you're the majority, but there's no resources there, or there's no jobs there, there's nothing to do but kill the other man to eat, or you might escape the hood and go to where you're the minority. We're the big minority. And then you're going to say, you're going to be like a coon. You're going to be a misogynist. You're going to say, hey, you know what? I need to find an educated partner, and these people are not educated. Yeah. I mean, everybody and their mama got to realize that, because like one of the things that people like about Amos Wilson, I'll say, is that he was dark complexion. Because a lot of times when you looking at black folks speaking on your issues, you realize that we are slowly losing the melanin in our skin. You know? And that's only here in America, really. Well, not really only. It's like it's some parts of the diaspora too. But a lot of times what you're going to realize is that we are slowly losing our melanin unless we're really poor, and then it's okay. You know, we might be pure and dark, but we don't have any sort of consequences. So, yeah, but like I said, if you go to Africa, we got that rich melanin. You know, I was light-skinned in Africa. I'm not saying I'm dark. I'm not saying I'm light. I'm just saying that I was light-skinned there. You know what I mean? And it felt good. I mean, I'm not saying it felt good to be light-skinned. I'm just saying it feels good to be around so much melanin. You know, natural hairs too. It was good. You know what I'm saying? So Learning Curve says they give you socialism as controlled opposition because all socialism synthesizes capitalism. Exactly. Regarding New York, this is what the militarization of local patrols does to a population. The industrialists pay for their military. Exactly. The bourgeoisie, they were mentioning, like they were mentioning yesterday, that New York, we got robot dogs. I mean, I didn't see one yet. But you got robot dogs. That's not robot dogs. You have the vehicles. You know, I was looking at this other story about this Italian person needed a heart transplant. So this health services drove their car like 250. I don't know, but they drove like 250 kilometers an hour or something like that, like very fast in this Lamborghini made for their medical services. And they just drove through traffic, like a 2 hour, like they took a 6 hour ride in 2 hours, and they delivered the heart transplant then and there. And the reason why they could do that is because they produce their own cars, and we just buy them, we just consume them. You know, you're always going to be in trouble if you're just a consuming people, and I'll mention that also as well later. You know, so this one's actually pretty interesting. So so like I said, you know, some people do, you know. Ethiopia. Okay, so Ethiopia, how do we counter? There's this Ethiopian guy who says, how do we counter? No, the question is this: how do we counter the alleged imperialist strategy of anchor states, right? Nigeria, Tigray, Egypt, and South Africa, or empowering minority groups to control a country, right? I get some hints, but I also say, look, this is the Ethiopian video. So I just wanted to show you guys 2 clips from this video. Actually, it's going to be 3, but I want to show you guys this video because I thought it was an interesting video, and I think this is going to be an interesting podcast. So I said, why not do both, right? So first we're going to do the first clip, which is at 51 minutes, and it's pretty interesting. Now, the lady to the left is obviously you know, whatever she is. People will debate the guy on the right, but that's on you, you know? Sorry, this audio is off. Can you guys see this? Make sure. Yeah, all right. So just listen to what he's saying, right?
Resigned from serving as a diplomat during the TPLF rule. Why did you resign? I forgot to ask you that, which is a very important question. And I assume it has to do with some of the things that you've discussed throughout this interview.
You know, when I came to United States in 1994, a comrade of mine, he passed away, a revolutionary from Zanzibar. He gave me a letter to hand over to his friend, Anthony Lake. Anthony Lake was the security advisor of Clinton. Mm. I gave him, and I talked to him. What he told me, this is the one who created the idea of the anchor state, how to control Africa. According to the US imperialist vision at that moment, is that it is United States must create an anchor state, and through this anchor state must influence the whole continent. And these anchor states are 4, designated to 4 states. For the all North Africa until Mauritania, they say we will influence all these countries. The anchor state will be Egypt, Mubarak of Egypt. For the greater Horn of Africa, they nominated the TPLF Malay General. That will be the anchor state, and we will consult with them and through them we will make our influence. For West Africa, it was Nigeria was nominated. For Southern Africa, it is Mbeki of South Africa was nominated. So this is the colonial thinking, how to rule and dominate the African continent with the so-called 4 kitchen niggas that they can use. And he told me, and after a while I'm reading and so on, I say, you were wrong. You are thinking like a colonialist, but you will not succeed. We young people, we will never.
Yeah, so basically, just to clarify before we go into the next clip, he's saying that there's some American diplomat who confided that they have 4 people they wish to control in 4 different regions in order to control the entirety of Africa, right? And how they would do that is they would go for Tigray, they would go for hold on a second. They go for Tigray, they would go for Egypt, they will go for Nigeria, and they will go for South Africa, right? Now, I'm going to play the other clip, but you have to remember why those 4 countries. And they're saying, yeah, why those 4 countries or 4 leaders or 4 operations. And of course, he does go into, how they were like, yeah, we're going to control these N-words because whatever, right? But we're going to go to the next clip because I think the next clip is also interesting.
We will not work with China. First of all, China had only 7% of her land is suitable for agriculture. Africa have 60% of all the resources. Why we don't work with China? Of course, we have to work with China with our interests. China needs us and needs everything what we have. It's our condition we have to put on China. China cannot exploit us, and we will tell them very clearly. There is no people who have suffered like Chinese. From 1840 of the British Opium War until 1949, 100 million Chinese were killed. And daily in Shanghai, 30,000 to 40,000 Chinese peasant families, they were dying in the streets of Shanghai when Shanghai was under the colony of the Europeans and Americans. We understand the Chinese people, but we will not also accept from the Chinese that to treat us and as a colonial, then they will lose it. That it is. We, the young generation of African continent, we know the war. What United States is trying is that recopying the old Ottoman system. What is that? Jama'a Wazifiyya. What does it mean? Those small group, you put them in power. In Arabic, they call it, and I will translate it, Jama'a Wazifiyya la yadurruk lakin yanfa'uk. They can't hurt you because they are minority, but they will help you more. So you have to find this Jama'a Wazifiyya group of, this is the Ottoman have used it for very long time, the Arab-Islamic world, and the Abbasiyin also in Islam. So they recopy that in their imperialist agenda. To find individuals and groups who have no confidence on themselves and who are terrorized from inside, who doesn't want to be part of the society, the greater society, and always try to be dependent with external forces. You are a Lebanese.
I know.
Your history.
Okay, so I mean, you guys can listen to that link on your own. I don't know if I have the other detail in the front. So you see, former Ethiopian diplomat. It's actually pretty good. It was in the Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord and you're not there, make sure you join the Discord. The link is in the description. All the same, I want to just jump back into the Discord right now. And you're going to see, yeah, so that second part was more or less, I mean, I did include the part about the guy like, oh yeah, China was so oppressed, because it's really interesting, for somebody to say that. But also, he's saying that you're going to focus on a small group within another nation. You're going to focus on a small group to destabilize the whole nation. So one of the brothers, I don't know if I put it up on this AMA, but one of the brothers was pointing out that, he asked me, what do I think about this, what about the referendums in Ethiopia and Nigeria, right? And so what are these 4 nations is the question, right? What are these 4 nations is the question. And the answer is that these are the top, these are 4 of the top 5 nations in terms of population in Africa. Okay? These are the top 4 in terms of population in Africa. So I think I could actually pull that up, pull the graphic up in, oh, somebody asked a question on this thing. So, here, this is the graphic where it says, let me see if you guys can see it. Kind of, right? Where it says Nigeria is 206 million black folk. Well, we're not going to say everybody here is black, but here's the thing. This is probably accounting for 60% of Africa's population. You know, so 206 million, 109 million, 102 million, 101 million, 59 million, and then it just goes down from there. But the point being that if you could control these 5, if you can have these 5, then you have the majority of African people. Or you have the majority of Africa, and you have it in the different sectors of Africa too. You have control you have influence in West Africa. You have influence and authority in Ethiopia. You have influence and authority in Northern Africa. Or you have influence and authority in the Central Africa. You have interest in Southern Africa. You have interest and authority in the Horn of Africa. The point being that this is what the Americans are doing. It's very plain and transparent. They're saying, what are the 5 biggest nations? How do we destabilize them? How do we empower minority groups in them? So in Ethiopia, you have the Tigray. In Nigeria, you have the Fulani. In the Democratic, the DRC, you have your own group. In Egypt, and so on and so forth. And in South Africa, you obviously have them white boys, right? But the reality is that you destabilize the country. You have the country fighting itself. In Nigeria, you have people talking about civil war. You have people talking about breaking up the country. In Ethiopia, you have people talking about civil war. You have people talking about breaking up the country. And what the Americans are saying is this. Maybe Ethiopia can't fight America, but Tigray damn sure can. Maybe America, maybe Ethiopia is going to give America a fight, or it's going to take a minute, but Tigray won't. So Tigray will do for America, will work with America better or be more manageable for America than Ethiopia could. Fulani will be more manageable than Nigeria could. A united, powerful Nigeria. So for that question, which let's actually see what the question was. For this question on how do we counter the alleged imperialist strategy of the anchor states or empowering minority groups, that means that we also have to say to ourselves, how can we be in these countries? Or how can we influence these countries? How can we surround these countries? You don't have to be in one of these 5 countries, right? But you have to be mindful of you developing and growing in your power the same way that Wazungu has developed and grown in his power and has impacted these countries from the outside. That's how you counter the imperialist strategy. And this might actually be the strategy because we see the Tigray and what happened with them. So I think that was a cool one. Also from that video, 1 hour and 16 minutes, he has this, he talks about how Europe's peace is subsidized by Africa. It's not really something, I mean, I don't know if I should even play it, to be honest. But you could also, like I said, check out that video and you could see more of that idea. But the idea is here that essentially Europe, so actually it's not that bad. Let me see if I can play it. How do you do that? Let's see. Switch over to YouTube. Go over to 1:16:30. So this is a pretty interesting video, and I just thought, look, we have this Q&A session. A lot of black folk want to know certain things, so let's just use this opportunity to teach.
Example I want to tell you. There was one experiment in Africa happened in 1960, which they have learned from it. In 1960, 63 Kenya got independent, 1960 Tanzania got independent, and Uganda got independent. These 3 governments, ideologically, they are different, but they were wiser leadership. They created an association called the East African Community. And this East African community had one airways and so on and so on and so on. So the economy started growing and the situation was getting easier for traders, for students, for everybody. You can move in this country easily, you can settle and so on. After 10 years, by making a coup d'etat in Uganda through Idi Amin, they break it because they realized at that moment European Union didn't exist at that moment. So this African experience, if it grows up and it shows positive sign, other Africans will join. And this frightened the ex-colonial powers in Europe. They say, no, Africans, if they continue like this, they will get independent from us. And then the major contradiction comes, the third part, the peace we have in Belgium, the peace we have in France, the peace we have in European Union, a subsidized peace, my daughter. It is Africa subsidized. France is subsidized every year. And this is, you can quote me. It is the president, the late president who passed away, Chirac. He said it openly. Africa is subsidizing Europe every year, 400 billion euros. Free money from Africa comes. Imagine, he said, the day this money stops, the peace we have in France cannot continue. The contradiction between the working class and the ruling class in France will be more antagonistic, and there is a possibility for a revolutionary situation. That's what he said. So these parasites, they live at the expense of the African blood. And that is why all this intervention, African blood, Arab blood, I went to Libya.
All right, so you guys heard that part. Yeah, so let's go back to the Discord. That's it. So yeah, well, so it's obviously, I just wanted to show the video, right? Yeah, Europe's peace. So Nkrumah explains this as well, right? In his other book, I think I have it right here. Well, you know I have the book. Neocolonialism. He's explaining it very plainly that Wazungu's countries, right? Like the wages you get in the Western nations, right, have to deal with the stolen wealth you get from Africa. Okay? Basically, you get higher wages to flip burgers, right? Or whatever it is you do. I mean, obviously you do something better than, I mean you do whatever you do, right? Or whatever. Somebody's flipping burgers, right? They get good money. They get more money flipping burgers than you would in Africa, you know, tending to wounds, because the country that is in the West is stealing from the country in the center of the planet, right? Not even gonna say the East. I'm gonna say the center, right? That's what's happening. So, but white folk, if you were paying them at the rate that they are, if you were paying them for how much it really is worth flipping burgers, they will say, yeah, no, not only am I not flipping burgers, but I want some of that billions and billions of dollars that you have. And then they will fight themselves. So again, if you are trying to even destabilize the West, the best way to do that is to develop Africa. And this is why they don't want you developing Africa. Because they, like, their peace demands your subjugation. And so what we have to be about is we have to say to ourselves, can we be that group of Africans who uplift and empower ourselves? And that's really what you should be called on to do on this day and age. And it actually does tie into the next question that Lero, if I'm saying that right, that Lero had to ask. But let me see if I have any more comments. It says, any opportunity to invest our wealth made here in America in a country like Ghana? Are West African nations corrupt? Do they respect the rule of law? That's Nobel War Prize asked that question. Opportunities to invest? Yeah, of course you can invest your wealth in it. Like, we have to just say to this, like it's just, if anybody else is investing there, then you obviously can. If the Chinese say, hey, look, there's opportunity there, then you can. There's a whole bunch of opportunity. I have another video, by the way, of me discussing like my observations in Ghana. So that might be a good one to link up to. By the way, I probably should link this other video. So let me just see if let me see if I could find that other video. Now, it's actually pretty hard for me to find my own videos. I don't know why, but this thing does not make it easy for you to find your own videos. But let me see. I can say Black Wall Street and then put my name, Onitaset, and we can see if I come up. Nope, I don't. Right? I'm gonna come up with my own search engine. All right, so we're just gonna do pro-black perspective. That could work, probably. You basically just say I want to search Black Wall Street, and that don't even work. Okay. All right, so I'll have to look up that another time. Because I remember somebody asked for that, but it's pretty hard to find. But yeah, so can you invest? Yeah, anybody could. You can invest wealth anywhere. You can invest that wealth anywhere. But yeah, but like that's what everybody else does. Are West African nations corrupt? Everywhere is corrupt. Everywhere is corrupt. Everywhere has people, like nobody's going to do anything for you for free. You know, the politician's not going to change the laws for you for free. They're not going to make anything. Nobody's going to do anything for you for free. Like, again, it's reciprocity. What you call, like, it's reciprocity. Just don't deal with exploitation. That's what you have to consider on. And do they respect the rule of law? Of course they respect the rule of law. They're the ones who make it. They're the ones who make the laws. Like yeah, everybody, like, the politicians respect the rule of law. I mean, it depends on what you mean by respect the rule of law, but yeah, wealth is the main thing. Wealth is the main thing that's going on. If you have wealth and you want to increase your wealth, yeah, go ahead and do it. You know? And just, you know, you might have to grease some palms, but that's like the real world. The real world is that, like even in America, if you're a politician and you want to win an election, you get donations from people. And when you get donations from people, you tell them, hey, when I have an opportunity to write legislation, your money's going to come back to you. You know, your money's going to multiply. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. And this actually goes back to, you know, Kofi's thing about us with our African ideas, so on and so forth. When I was in Africa, I told somebody quid pro quo in regards to reciprocity, but I said it in like a Latin way. They were just like, what are you saying? Right? Because I have that Western mentality. Like I was Westernized, right? I try to avoid it. I try to break away from it, but I still say things like quid pro quo. But either way, and I still speak English, right? But either way, yeah. The world is really run on the pocketbook, okay? On the wallet. The world is really run on the wallet, you know? It's like the golden rule. Whoever has the gold rules, right? So your focus should be on getting your gold. Are there opportunities? Of course there are opportunities. There's opportunities anywhere, man. There's opportunities in the hood. You know what I mean? Like there's opportunities in the hoods of America. There's whatever it is, but you have to focus on getting your capital up so that you can own the means of production and be a serious military force eventually. EL says facts. EL says Europe would be the part of the third world without having stolen from Africa. Of course. But it did steal from Africa, so they're not a part of the third world, and we have to go back to Africa and develop it so that they can no longer steal, because they're still getting billions. Like their life wasn't subsidized. They are being subsidized. Their life wasn't like, oh yeah, we're sitting on the wealth that we had and we're doing. No, that wealth's going to run out. Or that wealth already ran out. Nobody cares about that wealth anymore. What they're focusing on is how they can keep getting resources out of you. How they can keep selling cars to you. Like I said, I go to Ghana. The whole, like, they don't even, like, I went to they have a grocery chain called Malcolm, right? And I go in there, right? Like it's kind of like a Target, you know, if you know about America, right? Right? Or a Walmart or whatever, right? I go in because they have a whole bunch of stuff. But I go into the section where the juices are. I'm like, I want to drink something. Right, I want to drink some juice. It's not healthy for me. It might make me gain weight, whatever. Right? But I go and I say, hey, you know, I ask the store clerk, I say, which of these are made in Ghana? And they show me like 2 of them in a whole wall. And the other stuff on the wall, listen to me, it's not just America. It's Belarus. It's Korea. It's so and so. It's all these countries that don't even get to put their stuff into America, but they have produced a surplus and they've sent that surplus into Africa. They produced a surplus and they send that thing into Africa. While we're not even producing enough for ourselves, they are producing surpluses. You know, earlier today I saw these people talking about Jamaican fashion and they were like, oh, look how fashionable we were in the 70s. All the clothes we were wearing were the surplus clothes that white folks said, you know what, we made too much clothes, let's go sell it to these Negroes. And then we flexing around like, man, we so fashionable. Always on the surplus. Everything you have is just a surplus of Wazungu. The computer I'm speaking on is a surplus that the Wazungu said, hey, look, I produced too many. Sure, this N-word could get one. You know, that's it. Kofi says good answers to the questions. I appreciate it, brother. Noble War Prize says, if I buy a house in Ghana or start a business, will local officials protect my investment? Ghana is ridiculously safe. Like ridiculously safe. Like I don't know what your investment would be in danger of. So I don't really know what's the fear there. Like it's ridiculously safe. Like kind of like no violence safe. But yeah, I mean, like your thing, what I would say to you or anybody is that not even just Ghana, but just go into wherever you want to go, do some scouting. You know, don't make decisions based off of what I say, obviously. Go see for yourself. Go to these other countries, look around, cavort with the locals or communicate with the locals, try to coordinate something, do that kind of stuff. And then, you know, go to different countries too and figure out where you want to be, particularly if you're in proximity of these anchor states, you know, where America is really focusing on destroying us as a people. Or controlling us as a people, right? Let's keep going to the thing. I didn't want to be too long today. So this is Lero. She says, question 11, what actions via citizens and leadership would qualify as combating imperialism in modern day Africa? So again, citizens and leadership would qualify as combating imperialism in modern Africa. So the question 9 was telling you what the imperialist strategy is. The imperialist strategy is to empower the Fulani in Nigeria and destabilize the country, keep it fighting itself, keep it whatever, or even break up Nigeria so that it's no longer a giant nation of 206 million that can go to China or can go to Ethiopia or can go to so on and so forth. It's just a bunch of people who are fighting among themselves and whatever. That would be preferable to the Americans because the Americans could say, oh, you're fighting each other? Well, have you shot the other guy? Because I have a gun for you, right? Same with Tigray, same with Egypt, same with South Africa. If you want to combat these people, first off, you have to ask yourself, how much power do you have? You know, how much power do you have? Because we're going to go right back to this theme of Anku Ja Seneb. You first have to improve your life. You first have to be effective as an individual, right? In your community, in your nation, whatever it is, you first have to be effective in your family, and whatever it is, you first have to be effective, and then you could be effective outside of yourself, right? You first have to focus on you at this moment because we're all in this world already. We're all in this world already. All the players are on the board, right? But it's upon you to gather the resources to you and our group, our consciousness, right? Remember, every ethnicity is a consciousness group. We have to focus ourselves into our consciousness so that we can develop and build our continent and our country. So you have to focus on that, you know, as an individual. Right? Because the reality is this, that America is a whole nation. You know, usually you would fight a nation with a nation. I think I a long time ago, I had this organization called the African Blood Siblings, right? And we had particular core tenets. These are like philosophical tools that you would use to see whether or not, it was like kind of like a dialectic in a sense. And one of them was that organizations beat organizations, right? As to say that, like, if you're not a part of an organization and you're fighting an organization, right, you're not gonna win. This isn't Rambo, right? This isn't you know, the Jedi or something, right? You know, this is individuals do not win against groups. You know, I told you I have a brother who's a coon, and he was telling me, like, realistically speaking, if 5 men, you know, with fitness, right? 5 fit men fight you and you're just a fit man, right? They can kill you. Okay? You getting out alive from 5 men fighting you is because they wanted to keep you alive. You understand? It's not hard to kill a human being. We're just an animal like anything else. It's not hard to kill a human being. What that means is that you have to start to organize, you have to start nationalize, you have to, and remember, the nation is the highest form of organization, or the highest form of power on this planet, right? you have to become effective inside of a national structure. If you're really trying to fight a nation like America, then you have to be effective in that nation. So what I'm going to tell you to do is pick a nation, right? Be that individual that makes a change and a difference in that nation, right? And be effective so that you might not necessarily be in the driver's seat. Because if you're a foreigner, you might not be in the driver's seat. You might be. Who knows? If it's a Pan-African organization, if it's a Pan-African nation, sure you could be. But maybe you'll just be in the passenger seat. Be in the passenger seat with the driver right next to them and tell them, look. No, we're not separated. This referendum's not happening. No. Ethiopia's going to build this dam. And we're going to give power to Nigeria. Because I got a brother. We're going to call him Ankobia. We got our brother Ankobia in Nigeria. And he is going to provide us with the metal that we need. He's going to provide us with the tanks that we need. He needs power for his drone operation. That's what it's going to be. Right? And so, again, we start, like, one of the issues with us is that we tend to start small and end small. I want to say this. There was this one video I had watched, just maybe 2 minutes of it. I couldn't stand it. But it was like, feminists get shut down. Like a bunch of white folk just hating on their women or whatever, right? And it's fine. I don't care. I don't really care if they hate on their women, right? But it's like feminists shut down. And one of these feminists came up to this guy, this one guy, and he's like one of them famous psychologists. I don't remember. But she's like, you said that if an individual should change their own habits and then they could actually stop the climate crisis. And that's just stupid. That's naive. And that's so on and so forth. And he's like, I never said one individual recycling can change the climate crisis. I said that one individual building up themselves and elevating themselves in their community so that they can become on the top or whatever, that when they're on the top and they have a consciousness towards climate change, that from the top, they can impact climate change, right? And so she was like, duh. But it's like, you might say, oh, that sounds just like what you just said. Yeah, because realistically speaking, because this is that J.A. Rogers book, actually, right? This J.A. Rogers book, I said to myself, let me read the first few pages of this book, right? I said, let me read the first few pages of this book. And he's talking about, you know what? Realistically, you got to look at this world as individuals. And usually we say to ourselves, no, we shouldn't. That's how white folk do it, individualism, so on and so forth. That's how white folk do it. But if you're realistic about what you are on this planet, you really are just an individual. What you're looking at right now is just an individual. You're not looking at multiple people. You're not looking at so forth. What these individuals can do, however, is make a choice to work with each other and make something happen. And so that's what you have to say. You have to say to yourself, yes, I am an individual. I'm an individual listening to another individual. But we as individuals should work together towards building and developing our people. Right? So I say also to the next question, because Lero asked both questions. Says, in your personal opinion, what endeavors should be prioritized on the continent by those that identify themselves as Pan-African nationalists? Right? So we're going to turn to the Book of Power. If you do not have the Book of Power, I do not know what you're doing. Okay, so this is one of the exclusive essays in the Book of Power, right? This is one of the most important essays in the African consciousness movement at this moment. Okay, yeah, I wrote it. It's one of the most important essays in the African consciousness. I did not put this one in the preview. I put this in the book because I said, look, the book is worth this money because this right here is what you should be reading. This is going to describe the Ankobia model. Okay? The Ankobia model, let me see if you guys can see this. The Ankobia model allows for widespread African literacy, skills, militancy, morality, and wealth. These are the rudiments for not only a powerful nation, but a desirable refuge for the global incompetency and hostility affecting African people. Okay? If you want literacy, skills, militancy, morality, wealth, right? You want a powerful nation. If you want a refuge from all the stupidity around you, right? Then you do this. It says, land is necessary, land acquisition is eased by the first stage of Pan-African unity. So this is the first stage of Pan-African unity. Boko. Remember, the plan is Boko Waset Nakedu. Boko is the Ankobia's per Ba, place of the Ba, place of the soul, our temple, our place of worship, our community centers. And so I'm going to describe to you what these 4 goals are for the community center. It says the BOCO is an institution, whether physical or digital, which has 4 main goals: to seek and develop Oncobia and Oncobia consciousness, to organize a locality into a prosperous, independent African community, to collect taxes for the local war chest and Oncobia nation at large, and to discern and finance locals for Waset. The idea is very simple. You build a community center to develop the consciousness towards us becoming powerful again. You develop the community center to create for us prosperous, independent African communities where we are. You develop this community center to start collecting a war chest so that we can provide for the nation at large. We can make investments in the nation at large, and you make this community center to discern and finance the locals for Waset. That's to say that you're going to have people among you when you go to any community. Because like I said, I went to Ghana, right? I went to Accra, and I was in the community, and you could see the people that if you were to not take them, but if you were to change them, transform their mind towards Pan-African, towards something better and bigger, right? You know, but they're not the people who are just eat, sleep, and whatever. You want some people just want to build. Some people want better for themselves. If you can take them and give them that sort of intelligence, that sort of wisdom that is required, right? We would transform not just that community, but the whole of the African continent. If enough of us are working on these solutions for us, then sure. And I could actually read some of this stuff. I usually try to keep this secret. I say, look, you can get the book. But look at this. The first goal is primary. Racial education is utmost for any people, and every powerful people make it their responsibility, whether for their children or their... Now remember, I want to tell you this right here. Community center, every other people are doing this. See, right here, you say, I gave away the clue. Place of worship. Worship, what is worship? When I went to Ghana in this area, everybody was going to the church. On Sunday, I couldn't even find food. I was like, oh, I'm hungry, but I can't buy anything because everybody was in the church. Wazungu set up these places where they can develop your Western consciousness, where they can keep the people poor, right? Where they can collect tithes, the 10%, so that because I remember one of these sisters I was talking to, like a young sister. She said, she's like, I was like, hey, is the pastor rich? And she says, yeah, I don't know how. She don't know how, but the man's collecting all your money. Or he collected 10% of your money from 500 people. Right? So he's getting money that way. Right? So it says discern and finance. But but the thing is this, if the pastor can get money that way, you can too. This is how every other people are doing it. And you sitting by, a lot of us sitting by like, how is this cathedral so big? The slums around us. Because they're collecting the freaking tithes. They're taxing. Every nation is taxing. But anyway, look, the first goal is primary racial education, whether for their children, adults, to inform and impel them on their racial and national, so on and so forth. I was thinking about reading this to you. I'm getting a little breathless though. But the point is that you get the book or you just pause the video later, right? The reality is you go there, you could teach basic skills, basic rudimentary math, literacy, and so forth, right? You go there and you develop the local community. You have meetings, you have events, you have markets, you have so on and so forth. You set up a community. This is what every other people do. Every other people are doing this. They are doing this. You set up a little tax percent. You get the war chest going on. Every other people are doing this. And the fourth goal is that you send them to an institution of higher learning. You get people on higher learning where they study the different subjects that we were talking about for, here's Waset right here, where we're talking about the different sciences that we can involve ourselves in. Let me see if right here. Banking, governance, propaganda, civil and military engineering, pure and practical sciences. You can see the curriculum later. The point is that you do this kind of stuff, right? You do this kind of stuff, and we as a people can profit. So you see what page that is. I would advise people to read the book in its natural order. But what can Pan-African nationalists do or prioritize? You prioritize First off, Uncle Jasa Neb, you prioritize developing yourself. You prioritize developing your community, your family. You prioritize from that family being developed, you build up your community. From that community being developed, you develop your nation. Okay? It's you start small. If you started small, end big. Don't stay small. Do not stay small. I hope that was sufficient for you guys. I'm Chaka Hayden. All right, so let's see if we AL says true. We need to protect our markets. We celebrate our defeats. Countries use tariffs, and individuals should culture to protect our markets. We need to wear fashion we make, and we should have a seal saying that this article was made by a black country, black person. Exactly. You have the tag on your clothes. You have the tag on your clothes. The tag on your clothes tells you straightforward who had the surplus, who produced the surplus. If it says made in China, that means China says, hey, you know what? We made enough shirts to give people in America shirts. We made enough shirts to give people in Ghana shirts. And but when they give you the shirt, they're getting something. They're getting some money. Right? EL says, as long as we are self-destructive, they will give you weapons from LA, Chicago, Jamaica, Haiti, Syria. Of course they will. Why not? Kofi says, The Four States of African Consciousness is a good read as well. Yeah, that's in the pro-black compendium. It's a good read. Chaka says, what, no calabash chain? Yeah, I know. He's just hating. Lero says, did you coin the term warship? Who did? I think I did. I don't remember anybody saying it. EL says, someone said Africans will buy a factory, turn it into a church, and pray for jobs. It's true. Somebody wasn't capping. And then being small is a sin. That's why, like again, in Africa, we would say to each other, I think it was probably in passing, like, you know, when somebody's leaving or something, we might say, Uncle Johnson Neb. You know? I wish you peace. I wish you life, prosperity, and health. You know? I wish you life, wealth, and health. You know? Focus on your life, wealth, and health. Focus on those things. You know? Just focus on those things. Let's keep going. Focus on that and then just bring it up to another level. So this is, what economic plan would you put in place? Number 13, what economic plan would you put in place to combat Western economic sanctions should you be levied with such? So there's no question of whether you will be levied with sanctions. The question is, can sanctions affect you? It's like this. Let's say let's say we're not going to just make it for men, right? But let's say there's a person that you... No, all right, let's do it for the men, right? For the men. Let's do it for the men, right? You're a man, right? There's a woman out there. Like, your neighbor's like, look here, man, you ain't going to get no punani, right? But you ain't never got no punani from your neighbor anyway, right? That don't mean nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares? Like, yo, you ain't going to get no punani. You ain't going to get no access here. It's like, okay. Oh, like for instance, Rihanna says, hey, you know, I see you looking at me, but guess what? You ain't going to get none of this. I'm like, all right, I understand that. I was just looking, right? Now, if you now let's say you married to a woman, right? And she's like, you ain't gonna get no punani, right? You understand? Of course, I was just going on about, you know, don't just focus on eating, drinking, and sleeping. Yeah, sure, but you know, you want some of that sometimes, right? So it's like, that's when it's a problem. Or even say it this way. Let's not even do the punani. Let's do it like we said, food, right? So your neighbor says, look, man, sorry, but there's no seat at the table for this restaurant. Right? Or sorry, but, you know, when we're eating dinner, you're not invited, right? You know, it's like, okay, I wasn't planning on going to your house anyway. But when you don't got food in your own fridge, that's when you worry. That's when you worried about scarcity. So this guy was reading about. So what I'm saying about that is this, right? What I'm saying about is this, that if you have economic independence, it don't matter who sanctions you. It don't matter who tells you, hey, well, guess what? You can't get none of that stuff. You can't get none of my stuff. The trouble right now is that African people, we are not producing and we are highly consuming. So one of the things that I didn't point out from, I think it might be in the interview, is that what they do is they try to agitate other populations so that they rebel and ask for help. What happens is that when you go to Ghana, I think I put this inside one of the questions later, so let me see if it's one of the questions here. Yeah, so it's question 15. But I said, look, if the only way to have traffic jams without building cars is to be poor. You know, they have traffic jams in Ghana, but they do not build cars. So the only way to have traffic jams and to not build cars is to be poor. So if your people are dependent on vehicles, but you are not building vehicles, you are constantly importing vehicles, and that means that you're constantly exporting other parts of wealth. You're exporting something to be able to import cars. You have to give something to be able to get something. If it's called a trade, unless you are the one exploiting the other people, but you're not. So all these black folk are walking around with Western clothes. All of them walking around driving Western cars. All of them walking around using Western devices, right? That means the country had to bring that in. How did they bring it in? Because they had to give the resources or something. Give their people something. Had to give something. Right? Unless we were just stealing it. You understand? So that's where the issue is. Now, if you can produce these, because the thing is this, Wazungu's not going to have you, what would you call it? They're not going to have you, building on their own, right? Hold on a second. So I see Carolyn says 100% agree on you have to develop yourself. And EL says Russia and China are starting to de-dollarize, yeah, getting rid of the dollar by buying gold to dodge U.S. sanctions. So the Westerner is not going to, when it comes to economic sanctions, the Westerner is not going to, it's not going to work unless you are depending on them. Oh yeah, so the point is this, that your people are already dependent on them. You can't say, okay, we're not going to import any more cars. We're not going to have any more phones. We're not going to have any more cell phone service, because your people will then fight against you. That's what I wanted to say. That your people are now going to fight against you. Okay? Because you do not, because you're not producing something. It's like, I guess, some people will say, you can't take something from somebody without replacing it, right? If you can't just say, hey, you know what? We're not going to import any more cars, and we don't have any cars, so whatever, right? Because then the people will say, no, you're not the kind of government that I want. The people, the masses want to consume. So you, as somebody who wants to build and be an independent people, you have to be able to produce. If you are not producing and you're just complaining about black folks' consumption, you're not a part of the solution. And when you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. If you're just like, hey, why are we using these cell phone services? Meanwhile, you know damn well why we're using the cell phone services. Why do we have these cars? We could just walk all over Ghana. No, you cannot. You cannot. The bus system there was crap. You cannot do that. What you have to do is you have to provide the alternative. And that's where the economic advantage comes in. That's where the investment that the brother was asking about comes in, or the sibling was asking about comes in. If there's a need for us to be productive. That's where you as the future industrialist, as the future whatever it is, the productive elements of our community, the nation builders. You have to say, how can we become independent? So that when we cut ties or when they sanction us, our people are not hurting. Because right now, when they sanction you and they say, okay, well, we're not going to sell you any more cars and we're not going to provide any more internet service and we're not going to do all that kind of stuff, right? People sitting at home with their smartphones who just want to eat, drink, sleep, and F, they're saying to themselves, this is impacting me doing these things. Oh, we're not importing any more alcohol? I'm sober. I don't want this. And so the person who's responsible is this person that everybody's saying is anti-American or something. Like, I don't care for that stuff right now. You too political. You too radical. What I want is what we had before. And you always hear this. You always hear black folk talk about this. Before we were decolonized, we had this kind of stuff, and we liked it. Yeah, because you like those kind of basic things, but this is what we as African people have to do. We have to be able to provide that independence so that when we do, none of that. I mean, like there's no rebellion, there's no problem. People like it. People love it. That's what it is. Bit of Medicine's here. He says, can't propel them seemingly backwards. Can't propel them seemingly backwards. Right? I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, brother, you know, Bit of Medicine's here. He stayed up late last night too, so, you know. But anyway, what are we talking about? What's the next question? So this is on the Discord. You asked whether an African leader would listen to you more if you had $100 in your pocket or $1 million. But shouldn't the strength of your ideas be why someone listens to you, or is wealth the measure of a man's voice? Obviously, this is a troll question. I mean, I asked it myself. That's why I can say that, right? It's a troll question in the sense of, yeah, look, when you have $1 million in your pocket, right, your voice is louder. Your voice is louder. Okay? If it's like when it comes to health, right? The dude with the 6-pack and the so on and so forth, he tells you how to lose weight. He sounds a little bit like he's more convincing. You know? When you know, than the person who doesn't have the 6-pack. Or if like the example of this, like where it comes to tennis, you know, I could tell you all the fundamentals of tennis if I wanted to, right? I could read it, learn it, whatever. But, you know, who are you going to listen to except for like if it's me or Serena Williams? You know, Serena Williams is like, hey, you know, for tennis you got to do so. You're like, yeah, okay, listen to her, right? But realistically speaking, you have to understand that politics, right? The leaders, they're controlling an economy, okay? And you might have some good ideas, but you're gonna have to chip in too. They're not going to put everything. They're not going to gamble and risk it all on some idea you have. No matter how good the idea is, you got to chip in too, or you got to have some sort of stake as well. Remember that early American history, the only people that could vote were the landowners, because it's understood that if you have land, maybe your opinion, maybe you actually care whether the thing works or not. If you have an investment, if you have a stake in the game, maybe you actually care if it works or not. You know, maybe you actually care if the result. If you can profit or if you can lose, maybe you actually care. You know, it's like you know, some brother was telling me about going into the cryptocurrency market. You know, if he didn't have any money in it, he probably didn't care. But when you put money inside of these things, you care when it goes up and down. You care how it goes. You know? So yeah, the African leader is saying to himself this: you got $1 million in your pocket, I want some. Right? You got only $100 in your pocket, I don't care. You know? And it's nothing wrong with a politician wanting money. There's nothing wrong with anybody wanting money. There's nothing wrong with anybody wanting resources or wanting to secure themselves life, wealth, and health. Nothing wrong with that. You know? Obviously, you know, you want it in moderation, right? Obviously, you want it from reciprocity, from quid pro, you know, from whatever, right? From ma'at. Obviously, you want that, but again, wealth is what you would want if you're really serious. If you're going to be in the passenger seat or the back seat, really, it's the wealth that's going to make that difference. Because nobody wants you in the passenger seat if you're not going to contribute to the toll. You understand? You don't need to be in the passenger seat. You can sit in the back. And I mean, I could have went more into this, but, you know, hopefully you guys get it. Let's go to these things. These are, this is the one about this. Somebody says, Ghana gained independence the same year as China. Ghana's independence. China is independent, but Ghana is not. Why? And I just said they're both independent, but China is a manufacturing wizard. I would advise you guys come into the Discord, look at this thread, because actually, I'm a Bookman was actually in the thread, along with, as long as Maroon Village, and they were having a pretty interesting conversation. So make sure you guys check that out. But this idea, and actually D Web was in there too, Harsh Reality, where somebody was like, hey, yeah, but China got assistance to get its industry up. And it's like, yeah, okay, who gives a shit? They can now industrial powers. You know, one of the things about the Chinese is that well known is that they can produce counterfeit goods. They can produce I was talking about this yesterday, where they can produce counterfeit food. They can make mac and cheese. They can make bean pies. They are trying to be a productive people to get OPM, other people's money. And if you didn't know, China now has they say might have surpassed America as the number one economy in the world, right? Because they went for OPM. Ask yourself how much OPM comes to Ghana. How much other people's money comes to Ghana? You understand? Ask yourself, how much does Ghana manufacture? Like I said, when I went to the store, all of the other drinks, but the one produced in Ghana, all of them were produced outside of Africa. Most of them in Asia, to be honest, right? With the exception of one that's from South Africa, so it might not have even been black owned. You know? It might not have even been black owned. But, you know, I still went for that one because of, you know, I wasn't going to support the Belarus or nothing. But the point is that, you know, maybe they might employ black people. I don't know, right? But regardless, what I'm explaining to you is that if you are not economically independent, and your economic independence comes with your productivity, right? If you're not economically independent, your community is going to be screwed over, notwithstanding the fact that you might be quote unquote politically independent, because the political machine is reliant upon the economy. You understand? The politics is derived from economics. That's what I'm going to be explaining to you in my next book. So make sure you read these other books so you can catch up, but also that's what I'm going to be explaining in this next book. Let's go back to the comments. EL says, even war is a competition when it comes to production. Soldiers need boots, guns, walkie-talkies, planes, etc. It's like, you got to produce. You know, China and America have debatably the biggest militaries on the planet at 1 million people each. 1 million people each does not mean that there's just only 1 million people in the military. It means that 1 million people have access to tanks, have access to firearms, have access to planes, have access to submarines, have access to ships, have access to submarines. What are you building? You're buying from those people their surplus, the thing that they don't care for. And I told you guys about this a long time ago, way before anybody even knew me, I guess. But I still was saying this. I said, this guy, Hilaire Belloc, apparently, I think, maybe Toussaint might have heard of him, right? Toussaint, you know, Louverture. He might have said, Hilaire Belloc says, he's a quote-unquote anti-imperialist white boy. And he says, no matter what happens, we have got the Maxim gun and they have not. The logic there is that no matter what, white people kept the best firepower to themselves and gave you these little, whatever it is, you know, these hand pump rifles or whatever. And the Maxim gun is the machine gun. So whereas they can mow down a whole army, you could maybe shoot 2 people very inaccurately. And they said, okay, you have those stuff so you could kill each other, but you can't do what we're doing. And the only thing is that China says, actually, you look, we know how to do everything you could do, and we could do it better. And when we're doing that, we don't have to fight you, because we can make for our own people. I saw this video. There's a video on the Discord. Make sure you guys come into the voice chat. Make sure you guys come into the voice channel, and make sure you guys come into the voice channel, and what was it? Make sure you guys come into the voice channel, and then get yourself verified so that we can talk about the Pan-African investments too, right? Anyway, let's go back to this thing though. Let's go to the comments. It says, if you can wage war, you cannot be enslaved. Exactly. I mean, look, you could still be enslaved, but you're not going to be enslaved as easily. What was it? What's his name? Huey Newton said, any unarmed people are either subject to slavery or already slaves. Any unarmed people are either subject to slavery or already slaves. But Huey Newton should have said any people who do not produce their own weapons are either subject to slavery, because you're basically unarmed if you don't produce your own weapons. You know? Because you could have all the guns on the planet, but once you run out of bullets, what are they? Sticks? All right. Freedom comes from producing, and being able to keep what you produce. Being able to keep what you produce, or even your life, may require war. We defend our ideas with logic and appeal to morals. Our enemies defend their ideas with bloodshed. This is where we go wrong. We ought to have such capabilities. Exactly. White people, I tell you, I was watching a children's cartoon. You know? I don't know why I was watching it. It was pretty funny or whatever, right? Watching a children's cartoon, and they said, war does not determine who is right. War determines who is left. War does not determine who is right. War determines who is left. Who's left is going to be who's controlling the economy. You know what I'm saying? If you control the economy and then we fight and then I die, you still controlling the economy. If you controlling the economy and we fight and you die, I'm controlling the economy. It's not who was right. You know, we could have been fighting over, who's better between Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson. We could be fighting over that. It don't matter. Whoever is left is the one who is left. It don't matter who's right. You going by what's moral, what's ethical. Nobody cares. Who is left? That's who's going to be controlling the economy. And the person who's left usually has the biggest guns at the end of the day. So you got to know how to produce yourself. That's what we have to focus on as an African people, on producing for our people, because that's what China did. China has a reputation of coming to America, learning its secrets, hacking stuff, learning how to do so forth. And now, like I said, I have this video on the Discord where there's this car and it has a wheelchair. No, this lady goes next to a car in a wheelchair, and she gets out and she presses a button on the side of her car, and the arm comes off the top of her car, picks up her wheelchair and puts it on the top of her car. Something you don't even see in America. Right? Because they said, look, we're able to manufacture, and so we can now service our people. These Chinese people getting hearing aids to make people hear again. They're getting, they're doing all sorts of things to produce things for themselves. Meanwhile, like I said, you go to Ghana and everybody's just selling things that they found from America. Somebody offered me a box of Monopoly. While I was driving in the car. Like while I was in the back of a ride share, they were like, hey, they rolled out they came to my window, was like, hey, would you think you want this game of Monopoly? Why are you offering me a board game that, what is that? Like, you didn't make that. You're just reselling. That's going to keep you poor. You're not producing anything. You're just buying something probably at retail to sell at a higher retail, and that's not going to do anything. You're going to stay poor. Like we need to do much better as African people. We need to do much better as an African people. So this is the next one. I said, so I said right here. I said it before, we have the resources, but we don't have the resourcefulness. We talk resources, but 99% of us, okay, so maybe I should open up this page, because there might be a response to something. And then this other brother responded to that. So let's see if we can post this up to you guys. And I'm getting kind of hungry, so I got to really hurry up. And I appreciate everybody for sticking around. If you're still sticking around. So yeah. So also Mari, he's pretty good family. He says, pre-African independence, resources were extracted and large areas of the colony went ungoverned, right? Post-independence, resources are extracted and large areas go ungoverned, LOL. So I said, look, I said it before. This is what I used to tell people on the streets of Brooklyn for some reason. I said, we have the resources, but we don't have the resourcefulness. We talk resources, but 99% of us couldn't do anything with cobalt, timber, bauxite, or vermiculite. Okay? Couldn't do anything with these things. Right? You give most people, yeah, here's a bunch of vermiculite. Here, do something with it, right? They'll be like, I don't know what that is. Right? But that leaves the 1%. So 1% of us probably could be like, oh yeah, vermiculite, sure. Cobalt, I could do conductive with that, I can make a processor. But then the question is, where are they? Are they in the driver's seat? Are they in the passenger seat? Are they even in the car? Most of them are not even in the car. Okay? So I think, I don't know what the freak this is. Okay. Oh, no, sorry, I see. This is like my Twitter or something. Oh, it's not my Twitter. Wait, what is this? Did I have these kind of responses? Oh, no, I only have one response. Okay. Wait, what? Okay, so I think I said something about the... All right, hold on a second. So somebody else put a post. I thought it was a response to this, but I guess it's not. Give me 2 seconds to give you guys the other link. So somebody said, Somebody showed this thing to me, and I thought this was related to the question, because it was like a hint, right? So I'm going to put this hint up for you guys, and we're going to see what that does. Wait, hold on a second. Okay, so maybe he might have deleted it. Hold on a second. So that might explain why I can't find it, is that they might have deleted it. Wait, hold on a second. Is this it? This is the link. Sorry, fam. Let's just do this really quickly. Okay. So, they said, have you seen this? Right? Oh, yeah, they just added me. No, sorry, I said, Daniel's reading some things, so it said, did you see this? And it's like a tweet from Bloomberg. And Bloomberg says, massive mine in Tanzania could help answer Elon Musk's plea to produce more nickel for use in electric cars. That is to say, and then if you scroll down, you have people from Tanzania like, come, invest in Tanzania. We have lots of minerals. I hope the country won't pledge the world. Those resources should benefit the citizens. Win-win situation, right? What is happening? Nickel, which is a front company for Barrick, has gone to stock to raise the much needed capital to invest in, so on and so forth. Basically, these people do not know what to do with the nickel. You know, we talk all these resources, and what are we going to do with these resources? As soon as we have them, we say, hey, Mr. White Man, you know what to do with nickel. Hey, Mr. Rich Man in the world, rich man in America, you know what to do with nickel. Okay? If you could pay us for our nickel, right? You could then make these cars, and you could make a killing off of them. We have the resources, we don't have the resourcefulness. It's really upon you as African people to, like I said, implement a strategy where you can have the resourcefulness. Because if you do not, the reality is that there's nothing you could really do for our people. Okay? Nothing you can really do. Realistically speaking, if you have the nickel, because you could make the electric car, but you don't want to. Your nation could make the electric car, but you don't want to. You want Wazoo, like some individual is supposed to make this electric car, and if it's not you, then this white boy's going to do it. It was mentioned yesterday that I tend to do some games, like video gaming or whatever, right? There's this thing called Steam. Steam is like this gaming platform that, became pretty big. Like basically you could stream video games and all that kind of stuff, right? They just came out with a handheld gaming computer, something that most people didn't even know was possible. They came out with that because somebody has to do something. And it could have been you. You know that the first video game cassette, allegedly it's a black man, like an African American, who made the first video game cassette. But it's Japan that really took off with it. Because it don't matter, if you're not a productive people, it don't matter what you think you know. And again, like I said, the 1% that might know how to do something with a cartridge, the 1%, they're out in the West selling their ideas to the West. You know, if the 99% are not going to do anything, they want, hey, come invest in our country. Ooh, you can give us some good jobs. We could go pick somebody got to pick some nickel for us. This is the last question, fam. So, unless you guys have any more questions, but I know everybody got to go do something. EL says, also producer has to innovate, do research in open markets. A consumer is second place and is dependent on the producer. Also, producer has to innovate, do research in open markets. A consumer is second place and is dependent on the producer. Yeah, the producer has to, the person has to be a producer, yeah. So this is the last question. Thanks everybody for sticking around. I see a lot of people had to go, and that's okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Come back if you hear this. So I said, look, this is one of the questions. Oh yeah, so somebody says, a 6-year-old greeted me, and I responded in Yoruba. The parents begged me to speak that my grammatically correct English because of its economic benefits. The Yoruba has no economic value. My response, if English benefits people, Nigeria ought to be the richest people in the world, right? That's not even true, right? That's not true, that Nigeria will be the richest just because, right? What happens is that we're talking about trade languages. So I did respond. I said, look, if we study nation building from the standpoint of developing our economy intelligently, then this insistence on our indigenous language can work. But if not, our languages will fall out of use. When I tell you to develop your economy, because like I said, you build that Boko. If in the Boko, you are engaging people with the language of, like I said, the Ankobia or whatever, like Swahili, whatever it is, whatever language it is you want to do. then that language can have some value, because people who want to economically advance, other people who want to have wealth, like I said, everybody's looking for Uncle Jasaneb. They said it. They said that about their kid. We want a better economic benefits. That's why we're speaking these languages. That's why I'm speaking English right now. That's why I speak English as well as I do, because I'm like, hey, you know what? In order for me to get into these universities, in order for me to get into these JOBs or whatever, these just over brokes, I need to speak English in a proficient manner for them. You understand? In order to succeed in their community, in order to succeed in their system, and so on and so forth. So, if you're not building an economic system for our people, don't even worry about preserving our languages. Don't even worry about it, because they're gonna go. They're gonna go. If you're not in some way impacting on developing ourselves and developing our wealth, don't even talk about your culture, because the trouble is this: that the people who are producing things, they're the people that's going to attract everybody around the world. So you, as African people, have to get serious about being the productive people on this planet. And then you may even one day surpass the Chinese. And you would have already surpassed the Americans by then. But other than that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Oh, actually, hold on a second. I think there was somebody did say that there was another question. I think I checked that out. It was something like this. Question, this is Capital Thrice. I noticed you back and forth with a brother on Twitter over his idea, that guy, over the idea of purchasing land for a sovereign nation, I believe from Congo. Was the problem with this that you believe the idea of buying land and declaring sovereignty was unrealistic? Or the problem the brother's lack of specificity? So there was this one brother who was just randomly talking about buying land from the Congo. The thing is that it's not realistic. It's not realistic to, like, the Congo is, like I said, it's one of the top 5 populations on the planet. It's really one of the richest areas on the planet. There's no way that anybody could afford it, just out of pocket. There's no amount of wealth that could buy the wealthiest part, like the most mineral rich area on the planet. Like it's just so unrealistic as a pursuit for somebody to say that, to even suggest it. And it's just so unrealistic when you go to Africa and see how vast and massive and beautiful it is. It's just like there's things called red herrings, there's things called I don't want to say false flags, but there's things called misdirections. And realistically speaking, we as African people should not be engaged or involved in misdirections. What I just told you about Anku Jasaneb, about developing your life, your wealth, your health, your posterity, your prosperity, your vitality. What I just told you about that is something practical and something you could do. When I told you to go and build something like community centers where there are people who have churches where you can influence, like that is a realistic thing to do. Now, it could be, even though that's realistic, even that's going to be difficult. Because like I said, the church, they want you to be Christians. One of the things that we have to understand about our people is that they have this sort of like this grasp on this religion. So it's like you may have a lot of resistance just off of that, right? The idea that this country, the richest country on the planet, realistically speaking, but mineral rich country on the planet, is just going to sell its land to a group of Black Americans. It's just dumb. Really, it was just dumb, you know. It was like just a waste of time. Like, and you would hope that we could not be entertaining or encouraging dumb ideas anymore, you know, because what we really need to do, like this wealth building and this production and all that kind of stuff, what we really need to do, and building up these communities and building up our families and building up our nations, and picking out real communities to work in. Like we can't have these pipe dreams with this unrealistic. Like basically, I'm just saying the brother was young, and usually, you know, as an older person, you could tell I'm kind of older, right? As an elder at some point, technically I could be an elder, right? You see a young person, you want to steer them the right way. That's all, you know. But like the brother didn't want to listen. So it's like, whatever. Who cares? I would leave that in the past. But other than that, so Kofi says, good stream. EL says, whoever dominates the research creates the words. The more words a language has, the more value the language has. That's one way to look at it. But again, let's focus on Anku Ja Seneb. All right? We focus on life, wealth, and health, and everything else will create itself. So that's not gonna be the full name of my next book, but because I don't want to say it and then somebody else takes it, because you already know somebody actually already produced something called the Book of Power after me. You understand? So you know how it is. But understand that when we talk about self-help or we talk about all that kind of stuff, we're talking about you going for your posterity, prosperity, and vitality. You going for your life, wealth, and health, and whatever that means. And of course, if you want a preview on that kind of knowledge, definitely go into the Book of Power, where we talk about Nobiko. Nobiko is the essay right before that last essay we just read, which is the key to all marriages, and we go into Anku Ja Seneb there. So outside of that, you'll also realize that I always say, like almost every podcast I end with telling you the title of my next book. So so we're going to go right into that. Hold on a second. EL says the language of thought leaders is the language that people will not to use. Exactly. The language of thought leaders, economic leaders, the language of the economy is that's what the parents are telling you. Because I told you, I knew the sister in Tanzania, and I was like, hey, it's too bad that my kid can't talk with your kid because my kid speaks English, your kid speaks Swahili. And she says, no, I'm going to teach my kid English. Because English is where the money's at. People, economics, economy is what is driving these languages, right? Good Bit of Medicine Podcast said it was a good episode. Appreciate the brother for that. And okay, Lero says, appreciate the gems dropped. And calling yourself an elder in your 30s is crazy. Laugh my ass off. No, check out Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization. He says occasionally somebody in their 30s could be considered an elder. Because like 40 was considered elder in the Muslim communities, but sometimes you could have somebody. I mean, of course, he didn't say somebody exceptional, but I mean, you got to like yourself, right? Part of your loving yourself is saying that. And the thing is this too. I want you to understand. That's the thing I want to say too. If you believe there's more to life than eating, drinking, and sleeping, right? Eating, drinking, sleeping, sex and drugs. If you believe that, you're exceptional. Okay? You're exceptional. And what you have to do is you have to say, look, we are the exception. We are the people who say, you know what, there's more to life than this, right? And of course, sometimes we might say there's not more. Sometimes we say there is more. But when you're at that point where you say there's more, coordinate with your brothers and sisters and organize to build other things. Make it that way, right? EL says, when our people have the Harvard, Yale, and Oxfords of the world, then our language will dominate. Exactly. That's what Waset is. Boko, Waset, Nakeru. Waset is that. Every people have intellectual centers. Every people have higher learning institutions. That's where they have their power. If you know what Waset is back in ancient Kemet, you know Waset means city of power. And in Waset were these higher learning. That's what power is about. It's about that higher learning. So if you as an individual believe, like so call yourself exceptional. Lero, you're exceptional. EL, exceptional. Let's go through the list. Bit of Medicine, exceptional. Kofi, exceptional. Mchaka, exceptional. Carolyn, exceptional. Lero, I said it already. Exceptional. Kofi, so on and so forth. Nobel War Prize, you're exceptional. Learning Curve, exceptional. Flames, exceptional. AM, exceptional. You are the exceptional people. I'm a bookman, exceptional. Tikum, exceptional. You are the exceptional people who say, look, there's more to life than eating, drinking, and so forth. And you say you want to get involved in the processes that will bring our people better collective life, collective wealth, and collective health. And because you want to do that, yes, when you reach my age, when you're in your little 30s, and you want to really contribute to us, yeah, you could be an elder. Okay? Yeah. All right? And that's on Chancellor Williams. Right? That's on Chancellor Williams and his age grade breaking down. But thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And I'll tell you the title again, but we said it already. Shami Hotep, Ankh Uja Seneb Neb Amen Ma'at Dua Netcher.